doing a show this morning.
All right, this is it. Final Friday. Had to tell my buddy Matt yesterday, who was a little confused on the calendar. This is the final Friday of June. Next Friday, I won't even be here. Y'all have to figure it out for yourself. You have to be your own calendars. But next Friday will be July the 1st, and we'll be into the month of July. British Open, SEC Media Day. Then you'll blink, and fall camp will be here. And before you know it, it'll be September 3rd. I hate to just blow right past 4th of July and everything, but before you know it, Patrick, we'll be sitting here doing a Friday show with picks and with all kinds of things. You just whipped out the schedule right there.
Yeah, July's the last month without football.
It's very true. That's the way it works. Depends on how you want to view it, though. There is Canadian Football League if you want to get into that. Have you never gotten into the CFL, the Canadian Football League?
There was that game Johnny Manziel played that I watched.
There was that game, Johnny Manziel. Let's just see if I can get you out. I'll see if I can pull up the Canadian Football League schedule for the weekend in case you're dying for some football. Because you're like me. You haven't gotten into, you know what, in theory, we come out of the Super Bowl and we're like, oh man, I miss football.
Right.
I really need football. And you're like, oh, okay, USFL or whatever, whatever they've had, XFL. And then they start playing it and you're like, I can't watch this.
No.
This is no fun.
I've never gotten into it. I don't know what the original USFL was like. The one that had Steve Young, Herschel Walker, like lots of really good players, right? I don't remember what that was like. I can't imagine I can't picture a world where a secondary football league was actually entertaining.
Yeah,
Were you watching that?
What?
The original USFL?
Oh, I'm not that old.
I don't know how old it was. I don't know how old it was.
Yeah, I think it's back in the early 80s. I think it's a little bit before my time. But to go back to your point, isn't that the weirdest thing that we always say about football? Oh, we need more football. Can't wait, more football. Super Bowl ends. Like, this is so sad. No football. And you're like, oh, okay, USFL. And then you watch it and you're like, I can't watch this. This is awful.
Yeah, I'm more likely to watch a draft podcast on YouTube than I am to actually watch the USFL football game.
I mean, is that what we always do? We're just like, we need more football. More football in our life. Have a spring football league. I don't like
this.
People
kind of watched the XFL, right, before COVID, sort of.
Again, it's the novelty of it. It's kind of like this USFL they had their first game on a Saturday night or a Friday night, and it was kind of on, and it was on. I should say it was kind of on. It was on television. And I kind of like flipped over, and like after 5 minutes, I was like, 803-404-6100. Do you get into spring football league? Because we always talk about that. We're like, man, the FCS. You know what the FCS ought to do? Go to spring football. Have your own. The group of 5, the G5 schools, the non-power 5 schools. Play a spring football league. We'll get into it. We'll love it. We'll be watching you. And then it comes around. You're like, this isn't for me. I'm actually.
They did it during COVID, and I didn't watch any of it.
There was a year that I did really get into the CFL, and if you're interested, there's
just 1 year.
Yeah, it was a weird year. Like I don't know what it was. It was like 1 year that I like completely was like I'm in, and then after that, the next year, I was like, and I think part of it was that year they were broadcast maybe on ESPN or it was easy to find on television.
Who was your team?
I think it was the Rough Riders, Saskatchewan.
Rough Riders.
Yeah, I was in. Actually, and part of that was this was several years ago. Was the end of a couple Carolina players' careers up there. Like Justin Sorensen has multiple Grey Cups that he just. I think
who did he play with?
Who
Eskimos?
Brian Glenn would know. But yeah, there is a.
I don't know what their name is anymore. I think they actually renamed their.
They've renamed.
I shouldn't have said that word.
The strange start.
They played for the BC Lions and then joined the Winnipeg Blue Bombers.
Okay, there you go. So we're off and running on a Friday morning with a little Canadian Football League talk because, well, we're just ready for some football. The NBA draft occurred last night, and I will admit this. I'm going to openly admit this. Patrick and I had discussed this yesterday. the odds for Jabari Smith to be picked number one were growing. I would say from what would you say about Sunday night to about the time we did, they were growing exponentially to where it was.
Jabari Smith's?
Yeah.
Well, Paolo, I saw a ticket from a week ago that Paolo was like plus over 2,000, plus 2,000
Right.
or
That's what I'm
something.
saying.
And then Paolo's dropped down. And then as of, I want to say Tuesday or Wednesday, Paolo was the second favorite. So it was Jabari Smith at like minus 130, then Paolo at like plus 180. Thursday or yesterday, it was, I saw on ESPN minus 340 for Jabari Smith. So by yesterday, in the morning time at least, Jabari Smith was heavily favored. But then I don't know what time. I was asleep during the day, so I don't know what time the line started moving. But leading up to the draft, the word started coming out that, no, it's probably going to be Paolo.
Well, I just say that because about noon yesterday, 1 o'clock, I was like, might put a big bet in on Jabari Smith. I mean, he seems to be a lock for the number one pick. Glad I didn't do that. So you get Paolo Banchero last night going to the Orlando Magic. I did watch. Now, part of it is because my son Austin really got into it. Like, he was very fired up. He had done some kind of mock draft on Bleacher Report. And so, he had done so with every pick that he got wrong. It was basically the equivalent of losing a game 7 in the NBA Finals. He was very upset with himself. But it was kind of entertaining to watch last night. I actually thought ESPN did a decent job with the broadcast as I watched and some of the backstories and some of the things going on. I'm not going to lie and sit here and tell you I saw all 32 first-round picks. I think it got to about 14 or 15, and I cut the TV off and went to sleep because I knew I had to get up early this morning.
What did you think about Paolo's suit?
I didn't understand it.
I still don't understand it.
I don't know what was on it. I was confused. There used to be a little documentary that would come out on ESPN, like I think one of the streaming things, the days after, talking about 4 or 5 players and the links they went to with the suit. Because like Jabari Smith last night, I think had the Auburn logos inside of his suit and whatever it was Banchero was wearing.
Well, I know why it was purple. Do you know why it was purple? You know where he's from?
Washington.
Yeah, so it's purple because everyone was mad at him for not going to Washington. But I don't know why there were 100 diamonds just hanging on the suit.
Yeah, I didn't understand that. If you didn't see it, I'm sure you can look it up this morning and see the suit that Paolo Banchero wore last night, some of the fashion. One thing that I have not, again, the NBA, we talked a little bit about this yesterday. The NBA draft and college basketball as a whole, because of just the way, and I still do love college basketball, but just the way everything is, it's hard to really know the players like you used to. And so understanding some of the backstories, like Banchero's mom, Rhonda, being the standout player at Washington, and not just some lady, but like having a true basketball background. Jabari Smith, whose father played in the NBA, Jaden Ivey, whose mom is the coach at Notre Dame. I'm trying to think who was the other one that I went down the list that played. Who and his sister. Oh, it was Mark Williams from Duke. Mark Williams' sister playing in the WNBA. The amount of basketball backgrounds of parents. It was Shaden Sharp, I think, also had his parents were basketball people. I think it played D2 or something somewhere. I might be wrong on that one, but it was actually very interesting that there was so many kids last night that got drafted whose parents had I think it was actually Jeremy Sokin, the Baylor product, whose parents played D2 basketball in Oklahoma, but then for some reason I kind of lost track of the story, moved to England, and he had that kind of background. But there was so many stories last night of guys whose mom or dad or both had been basketball players, and that was how they kind of had grown up with their life.
Is that just because you have to be so big to play basketball at the NBA level that you need big people's genes? I mean, obviously in some way athleticism is passed down, and we see it in football all the time too. There's father sons. I mean, here, how many sons did we have on the same team at the same time? It was J.C. Horn, Damani Staley. There was Shiloh Sanders. Yeah, there was a bunch, but I don't get it. Basketball, it seems to be more common.
It seemed last night, I don't know, because a couple of things, and what you mentioned also about the height. Like, did you see Chet Holmgren's parents?
Just very tall.
Yeah, his dad probably was like 6'9", 6'8", 6'9", had the ponytail going. That was very impressive. But like, yeah, you're right. Looking at some of the parents last night and the size, it was interesting to watch. Again, the draft in and of itself, I don't know. I have no clue what to make of. I'm not going to sit here and try and analyze Keegan Murray to Sacramento this morning and what that means, or Jaden Ivey to Detroit, or you get at the point. I'm not going to sit here and try and overanalyze the actual picks because, quite frankly, to me, they'll end up getting lost in the shuffle of the NBA next year early in the season. But just the production as a whole last night. Again, I only made it through about 15 or 16 picks there trying to watch. I didn't stay up all night and watch it, but it was an interesting little broadcast. You mentioned the suits, you mentioned the outfits, everything that was going on with that last night led to at least some interesting form of television on a night where it was either that or Major League Baseball. And so I went with the draft and again got through about 6 picks last night. So if you want to weigh in on that, if you watched any of that, certainly 803-404-6100. Gene says, how about Bruce Pearl raking Chet over the coals? He is not a fan. I didn't catch that on Bruce Pearl raking Chet over the coals. I missed that. So, Gene, if you got more on that, let us know. We'll get into that. Again, we'll get into some other things this morning as well. We'll continue our countdown. The number 17 player in the South Carolina top 30 for 30. We'll get you that player this morning. I'll admit I have not even looked at the list. I have zero clue who that player is this morning. Didn't even pay attention at the list yesterday to see who number 17 would be today. So I'll check that out during the break and find out who we got coming up for you today, and I'll tease that a little bit. We'll get into some more college football discussion because it's 10 weeks. 10 weeks from this weekend that we get the first true weekend of college football. 9 weeks until we get that weird week 0 where we're all inundated with Northwestern and Nebraska. So a lot to get to this morning. We got donuts in the studio. We got the sun coming up. Storm, Jen. I don't know if you got it down here in Patrick. Patrick, I don't know if you got the storm.
Last night?
Yeah. Where'd that come from, Jen? Were we expecting that yesterday?
No, I saw, I heard there could be like a pop-up shower or thunderstorm, but like it all of a sudden just bam, there it was.
And it was, I mean, where I was at, the wind was whipping. At one point, I honestly thought there might have been a tornado in the vicinity of where I was at because of how bad the wind was whipping and watching the lake. And I love watching storms on the lake, but that was something. So the sun coming up this morning looks pretty out there. Hope you are up and at 'em on a Friday morning, June the 24th. It's Bill Gunner. It's Patrick Prentice, Jen Jensen. It's the early game on 107.5 The Game.
Here's what's coming up on the next Extra Point.
Hey guys, Pearson Fowler here from the Extra Point, and coming up on the Friday edition of the Extra Point, South Carolina kicks off another huge weekend of recruiting. As many as a dozen official visitors expected on campus for South Carolina. We'll talk to Wes Mitchell coming up at 11:30, get his thoughts on all the visitors, guys that might be ready to commit at the end of the weekend, and just kind of where South Carolina stands with a lot of the recruits that will be on campus.
And it looks like just one accident to let you know about, Cox Ferry Road near Two Notch Road. So cautious there. Be cautious there. Cox Ferry Road near Two Notch Road. Your forecast going to be a little bit muggy again today, but then not quite as humid for the weekend. So that's good news. 93 for the high today, 94 tomorrow and Sunday. Right now, it is 73 at 107.5 The Game.
6:21 on a Friday morning. Bill Gunner, Patrick Perrette, Jen Jensen. It's the early game. Welcome into all of you who are joining us on our live stream. I was trying to stay out of the live stream on the previous segment because I was munching on a donut, and there's nothing you need to see more than turning on the live stream, where you can go to youtube.com, search 1075 The Game, click subscribe, and see me chowing down. That's not really good live stream material, but if you want to join us there this morning, Anthony, DC, RL, Jerry, LeVar, all up at it with us this morning. RL pointing out Gary Payton's son just won a title alongside Dell Curry's son. And what was Klay Thompson's father's name? Any chance
I have
you
no
remember?
idea.
Mikel, I think. Mikel or Michael. Michael was one of
Was
the
he
two.
good?
Played for the Lakers. Not real sure how good necessarily he was. Robin up and at it with us. She's working out on her legs today. It's leg day for her. So if you want to go and join us on the live stream, you can go and do that. Again, go to youtube.com, search 1075 The Game, click join, subscribe, join in the conversation on the little live stream chat that we have there. You can also go to Facebook page as well. Big recruiting news yesterday, Patrick. Doesn't pertain to South Carolina or Clemson. It may have an effect. It may have an effect on South Carolina, and I'll explain that in just a minute. But Arch Manning, in case you either don't follow recruiting or have lived under a rock or just came back from the moon, Arch Manning is the son of Cooper Manning, the third Manning brother. So obviously he is the nephew of Peyton and Eli. Widely considered, consensus, I believe, number one prospect in the country in this recruiting class, as you would imagine. Again, if you don't already know, he is a quarterback out of New Orleans. Commits yesterday to Steve Sarkisian and Texas over Alabama and Georgia mainly. Those were really the final other two finalists for him. Commits to Texas. And Patrick, it's really interesting. I was reading a couple different articles on Arch Manning, and we already overhype recruits as is. You know, the internet, the growth of the internet, the growth of being able to put your highlights on Huddle and put it on the internet helps create an aura of recruits, an aura for particular recruits that they are invincible and that they're going to come in and they're going to win multiple Heismans and multiple national championships. And I've seen some very highly rated recruits not pan out. I've seen some very highly rated recruits. Trevor Lawrence comes to mind, completely live up to the billing. Arch Manning is going to be a very interesting example because the name alone gets him so much attention. But now there's people saying, you know, this kid is the next man, the next great Manning. The expectations for him at Texas, I think, are almost unbearable for any 18-year-old going to campus.
But for Texas, the bigger deal is not that Arch Manning is going to be playing for the University of Texas, right? Like him on the football field. It's what he can bring to that university, right? Like everyone's going to look at Texas now because of that. Everyone in that class. He's in group chats with 5 stars all over the place. Everybody wants to play with Arch. And Texas is already in good shape because they just put together an incredible offensive line class last year. I think the number 1 offensive line group in the country. They had a good transfer class. They got a couple kids from Bama. I don't know how to say his name. Ajayi.
Yeah, I know who you're talking about.
Ajayi
Wide
Hall.
receiver.
Jaleel Billingsley's there. And then they've got Quinn Ewers. And now Arch committed early too. I don't think that was not planned. I think
he committed during the summer. He committed about Dylan Longren.
But he could have waited till December. I mean,
yes.
Arch Manning is the type of guy, is the recruit that no one's going to say no to. He could have waited till the very last second, taken all the time he needed, and just said, all right, I'm coming. The team would have made a spot for him.
Right.
But he committed early enough that anybody that's still uncommitted, which is a lot of people in 2023, they can now look at Texas and they can say, okay, I want to go play with Arch. And we'll go from, I think when I go to 24/7 on the all-time football players rankings list, Vince Young's the only 1.00 perfect score quarterback. And then Quinn Ewers is also a 1.00 and Arch Manning. So from what I can tell, like the 3 best quarterback recruits of all time, or at least in the last 22 years, have all gone to Texas.
I have to go and look at Clemson's real quick and see.
Trevor Lawrence is here number 2 at 0.9999.
Okay. All right. You already got that. So, yeah, I mean, again, the expectation for him And this is kind of where I was going with this. Anonymous texter weighs in and says, is he really that good or rated so high because of his name? Admittedly, I've not watched any film. I've talked to enough people that are still in the industry who would never speak out, but no, he's not a Vince Young, he's not a Trevor Lawrence, he's not no, he's not. He's a good quarterback. He's a
Watching
good,
the ball come out of Quinn Ewers' hands is nuts.
and that's going to be the other thing, because he is going to be 1 year behind Quinn Ewers. And we talk about the transfer portal and kids getting somewhere. Now, Quinn Ewers technically next year, not this year, but in 2023 would be draft eligible. He'll be 3 years removed from high school. With that being said, has he developed enough in his 2 years at Texas, his 1 year at Ohio State, to be considered
Doesn't matter.
a big-time draft prospect? Yeah, I mean, well, look, if it does matter, because if Spencer Rattler was still considered to be a draftable prospect, he wouldn't be at South Carolina.
Spencer Rattler was on a trajectory to get drafted after 1 year, but Quinn Ewers, though, his options are basically going to be Arch Manning will be there for 1 year, his freshman year, and not expected to start.
Right.
After that, Quinn Ewers is either going pro or backing up Arch Manning.
See, I don't. That's the other
If he's
part.
not good enough, if he's the number one quarterback in the country and not good enough to go pro when he becomes draft eligible, that'll be a massive failure on his part, or a massive letdown for Texas.
And this is where what you just said is why I'm already willing to say that. And I hope the best for Arch Manning, and it's going to be interesting, and maybe, just maybe, who knows how the SEC is going to do it in 2025. Maybe we're seeing Arch Manning at Williams-Brice Stadium. I don't know. Who knows how the SEC is going to do that? Maybe we're making the trip out to Austin to see Arch Manning and Texas play South Carolina.
But either way, this is a huge deal for Texas. I mean, massive. It has to be.
It opens door, according to 24/7 Sports. Texas has the number 9, even with Arch Manning, and Texas has a good class, by the way. They have the number 19 class in the country. According to this, they've got 1, 2, 3, 4.
They were 5-7 last year.
5. They've got 5 other 4-stars and 2 3-stars to go along with Arch Manning. Texas is always going to recruit really well. Texas is like Georgia. Texas and Georgia, because of the amount of talent in Georgia, because of what you've got in Texas, you should have a top 5 recruiting. You or I should go coach those teams with zero college football experience. We should be able to land a top 5 class because of where those schools are located, because of the tradition, because of all the amenities those schools provide. With that being said, what exactly can Arch Manning do to enhance that program? You're talking about a program with one championship in the last 40 years. Unbelievable streak of this big name school. It rivals what just happened to Georgia. Big name school that for some reason can't find sustained success and multiple national titles despite all the funding. Of course, there's reasons. A lot of people talk about their board of trustees and how they're run, and the big money boosters that want to have their hands involved in everything. We'll continue talking about it. We'll get out to the Love Chevy phone lines. We got plenty we'll get into this morning. Again, if you want to weigh in, 803-404-6100 is how you can do so. You're listening to the early game on 107.5 The Game.
To celebrate Carolina's 30th anniversary in the SEC, it's 107.5 The Game's 30 for 30. The 30 best Gamecocks football players over the last 30 years. Number 30, quarterback Steven Garcia.
Gamecocks win. Garcia with a brilliant game.
Number 29, running back Mike Davis.
That Georgia fella can run. Good gracious.
Number 28, defensive back J.C. Horn.
Now Nix throws into traffic, and it's intercepted. There's J.C. Horn again making a play.
Number 27, wide receiver Brian Edwards.
And with that touchdown reception of 23 yards, Brian Edwards has become the all-time leader in receiving yards at South Carolina.
Number 26, defensive back Sheldon Brown.
Reese swings it out to Bush. The ball is knocked away, and an incomplete pass. And a crunch
punching hit put on by Sheldon Brown. And Bush takes a while to get up.
It's 107.5 The Game's 30 for 30. The top 30 Gamecocks football players from Carolina's 30 years in the SEC. Keep listening as we count them down from 30 to 1 on your home of the Gamecocks. 107.5 The Game.
And the weekend is almost here. Maybe you want to get out and play some golf. Maybe you want to go swimming. Maybe you want to go on a run. Not me, but maybe you do. If that's the case, you want to make sure that you are in peak physical condition. Make sure none of the joints are bothering you. You want to check out Prisma Health Orthopedics. Prisma Health is the official team physician for the South Carolina Gamecocks and the Clemson Tigers, so they can give you and your family the same care provided to the top athletes in the state. They're also the most comprehensive orthopedic group in the region. They've got 65 specialists across 6 locations to serve you wherever you might be. So if hip and knee pain is making your daily life difficult, you need to seek the best care and find out just how much it's affecting your quality of life by taking a free health assessment. Do not let hip or knee pain hold you back. Prisma is the region's most trusted orthopedic practice. They've got a deep-rooted history spanning over a century, and they're leaders in innovative procedures and teaching the next generation of orthopedic physicians. They offer a full-service walk-in orthopedic urgent care clinic for all sports injuries, strains, sprains, fractures, as well as chronic joint pain. And most importantly, they offer that free health assessment. So go out there, check them out today. If you want to find out more, you can visit them on the web at prismahealth.org/orthopedics.
107.5 The Game traffic from the Shepherd's Glass Traffic Center. Shepherd's Glass, a true...
We good? Ah, we're good. There we go. All right. I haven't, RL. Have not gotten into that documentary, but I do know what you're talking about. I agree. It'll be interesting to see how his career goes. I hope he succeeds.
Who is the most high-profile recruit South Carolina's gotten not in their geographic recruiting area, or just like, is it Ryan Helinski? Just coming randomly from California with no link?
Helinski, I would actually say,
Because I would say not counting Georgia guys, not counting guys from the Carolinas.
who was rated higher?
I mean, I guess
Marshawn
Florida.
Lloyd or Ryan Helinski?
Yeah, Marshawn Lloyd's a good one.
Because
Probably Lloyd, but Helinski was the number one in California, which was a big thing.
the reason I say is because with Ryan Helinski, there was a feeling that South Carolina was trending for him and that they were going to get him. Marshawn Lloyd's commit was like completely out of the blue, like Memorial Day a couple years ago, like just. Helinski was rated higher. He was 64.
Because it must be nice to be expecting to be in the mix for the Arch Mannings of the world every time. The question was, who are the most high profile Gamecock commitments from outside their geographic footprint? So I thought of Ryan Helinski. Bill said Marshawn Lloyd. Because, yeah, it must be a nice feeling for the Texases, Alabamas, whoever, when there's a 5-star generational talent, to just expect to get them on campus for a visit and expect to be in the mix.
That's true. Luke Doty came in with Marshawn Lloyd. I was sitting here. So Lloyd was actually high. Lloyd was actually rated higher
than Helinski. Yeah, he was a 5-star on Rivals, wasn't he?
No, it was Burr. He might have been, but yeah, he was 90. He was the number 43 national player. You know, it's interesting. This 2020 recruiting class by South Carolina, these guys should be stepping up now. Birch was highly rated. Hunley, Lloyd, Kaba. Did Eric Shaw transfer? I feel like he transferred. Tonka Hemingway.
I do believe Eric Shaw transferred.
Kind of interesting, actually. You start looking at Southside's recruiting classes. Either they've turned into good players or they've transferred. Like, there's no middle ground almost with some of these guys. I mean, I guess Luke Doty, there's a middle ground. Maybe Mo Kaba, but like Rico Powers transferred Shaw. Mike Wyman was awful. Jakari Caldwell.
That's the thing. We had so many receivers come in at that. It was like a 2-year span. There were a bunch of receivers, and just none of them panned out. Rico Powers played early, one of his first couple games, and we said, "Oh, maybe he's going to be the one that separates himself from this class."
Rico Powers didn't really play.
Did not happen.
I mean, you go back to this other class.
No, I think Rico Powers got on the field in like the first or second game for maybe caught one ball. Never to be heard from again.
Eight 803-404-6100 if you want to weigh in this morning. Talking a little bit of NBA draft from last night, a little bit of football recruiting. Arch Manning committing to Texas yesterday. And
you saw how it happened, right?
Well, and a lot of people really like that, the way he did it.
I love it.
Just put out a tweet, just said, I'm committed to Texas. That's the way.
His only tweet.
Did you expect, really, because of the Mannings, did you expect anything more? Like, what did you think he was going to he was going to have a Instagram or a TikTok riding a Longhorn into the stadium? Like,
I love when anyone in any line of work or walk of life knows that they're that good, they don't need to make a big thing. Nothing wrong with a kid going out of his way, making some crazy edit, posting, here's my top 20, I'll release my top 15 in a month, and then I'll release my top 10, then I'll release my top 5, then I'll make an edit and make a video for my commitment. That's fine, but Arch Manning is so good and so well known that he just makes a Twitter. In February of 2022, never tweets ever, has 52,000 followers, and just tweets, committed to the University of Texas. #Hook'em. And that's it.
Do you remember, and it was 2005 or so, do you remember the Jimmy Clausen
commitment? No.
Is pretty solid. It's pretty solid.
What was it?
So Jimmy Clausen, you got to remember, Clausen in 2005 when Spurrier came, Spurrier was writing to him, and at that point, Spurrier's back in college football, and Clausen was the number one recruit. Clausen was the can't-miss prospect. Jimmy Clausen was probably a better quarterback prospect than Arch Manning, but because there's a Manning in the class. Of course, Clausen had his brothers all with Tennessee and everything, and Jimmy Clausen was the can't-miss prospect. He's going to be the big-time guy. He was going to change the fortunes of one program. Well, he committed to Notre Dame. We know that. The way he did it, he, although being from California, went to the College Football Hall of Fame to make his announcement and pulled up in a stretch Hummer limo, a white stretch Hummer limo, and got out and went and had a press conference and announced his commitment to Notre Dame, which honestly, versus today's standards of making commitments, not actually, I guess, that ridiculous.
But still, that was pretty bold.
But in 2006, that was a pretty wild way of doing it. And Clausen went on to a solid career. I mean, I don't think you'd say it was anything more than solid, right? Wasn't a great career, obviously. Notre Dame during that time was above average slightly, if I remember correctly. I don't know Clausen's final career stats. Are you looking at the video or something?
I'm just seeing him standing at the College Football Hall of Fame. I didn't get to see him getting out of the stretch.
Yeah, the white stretch Hummer limo that he got out of. 803-404-6100. Jen, let's get out to the Love Chevy phone line. Scott wants to weigh in on Arch Manning to Texas. Scott, how you doing this morning?
Good morning, guys. For some reason, this thing, a lot more hype and a lot more build-up, but it just seems a lot like Ryan Sims. And I think, had they not guaranteed him a starting role and Applewhite would have stayed as their quarterback, they probably would have won a national championship that year, but they were obligated to Ryan Sims. I'll be surprised if he doesn't have a very similar career at Texas that Ryan Sims had, maybe even not as good as Ryan Sims. Is that a pretty good scenario there? Or what
are we talking about, Chris Sims?
Yeah, I was going to say, are you talking about Ryan Sims, more famous, better looking quarterback brother, Chris Sims? Yes.
Sorry, Chris Sims. Sorry,
Okay.
I'm the Sims kid. How's that?
Yeah,
I just remember him
It's
getting.
early.
We're
It's all
on
good.
Patrick and
I
I are
remember him getting the
Googling
nod over
Ryan
Applewhite.
Sims. Yeah.
Well, the thing is, there is a
I remember
Ryan.
him getting the nod over Applewhite, and Applewhite was clearly, a senior and probably should have been, the starter. But they had promised this kid, that he was going to be a starter, and Mac put him in. And I feel like he might have failed the team that year by doing that. But I'm going to be surprised if he's even better than that kid, because I know Sims went to the NFL and was serviceable, but not a superstar by no means.
Yeah, actually, I was going back and looking at it. I didn't realize Chris Sims is older than me. I'm 40. He'll be 42 in August, which just goes to, I don't know what that means for me right now. But you drafted in the third round. Drafted in the third round by Tampa Bay. Had a good college career. Nothing bad. Maybe you're right about they go on to win more national championships with Major Applewhite. I don't know. I think actually I'm kind of with you, Scott, on the Chris Sims comparison. The hype, the publicity, everything that came with him going to Texas out of New Jersey at the time.
Was he a number one type of prospect?
I'm trying to look and see ratings. This was 98 is when he committed. He actually had committed to Tennessee first and then decommitted and ended
Where'd
up.
Phil Sims go? Do you know that? Is that?
It's a good question. Phil Sims, in terms of college, I have.
I didn't know if it was a father-son Texas thing. No, he went to Morehead State.
Okay, there you go. How about that? So appreciate the phone call, Scott. Yeah, I that might be a fair comparison for the hype. Obviously, the bloodlines, everything. And Chris Sims was a good college player. Obviously, good enough to be drafted in the third round. Patrick,
there's just no name like Manning.
No, you're right. It's
for the quarterback position. It's unmatched.
Football royalty, and we'll see how it plays out. We'll continue talking about this. We'll get into a little bit of South Carolina news as well. If you want to weigh in this morning, 803-404-6100. You're listening to the early game on 107.5 The Game.
Here's what's coming up on the next halftime show.
Hey guys, Jay and Terry coming up on the Friday halftime show. We'll continue celebrating the anniversary of Title IX with a couple of great guests, including Bev Smith, the softball coach at Carolina. Our buddy Colin Taylor is going to join us with the latest on Gamecock baseball transfers. 3 Clemson Tigers become Carolina Gamecocks. Is this great or a conspiracy?
Is Clemson doing this on purpose?
Colin will have more.
Are they sending spies?
Plus, he'll be covering the Board of Trustees
those are
meeting.
spies, Jay.
So we'll have that for you, too. And a Top 5 Friday. So a lot to do on a Friday afternoon.
Frisk those guys for listening devices.
No, that's not what it is, right?
No, we're just joking around and having fun.
As far as you know.
The halftime show with Jay, Terry, and Tommy. Noon to 3 on your home of the Gamecocks. 107.5 The Game.
Oh, of course, the big question of the morning. Why choose proven quality sleep from Sleep Number? And I'm telling you what, it's because every great day starts the night before. A lot of people tend to think that great days start with donuts, and that is a very true comment. But getting a fantastic night of sleep, well, that's actually far more important than donuts. Trust me, I know. I'm an expert in sleeping and in donuts, and I choose the best of both. And with the sleeping, I go with my Sleep Number bed. Put that Sleep Number setting on 55. I wake up rested, refreshed, ready to go, and enjoy a donut each and every morning. And right now, you can do the same. You can get a great night of sleep and get a donut. Don't miss Sleep Number's weekend special with the Queen 360 C2 Smart Bed, now only $899 plus special financing, subject to credit approval. Minimum monthly payments required. See sleepnumber.com for details. Again, right now it is the weekend special with the Queen 360 C2 Smart Bed, only $899, but this deal ends Monday, June 27th. So you need to get to a Sleep Number store, 2 to choose from. One in Irmo on Harbison Boulevard across from Buffalo Wild Wings, the other in Columbia, 2 Notch Road across from Sand Hills Mall, and you can always visit them on the web, sleepnumber.com. Get that great night of sleep right now by making the switch. Make the switch to Sleep Number today and find out what a great night's sleep is truly like.
107.5 The Game traffic from the Shepherd's Glass Traffic Center. Shepherd's Glass, a true reflection of quality. shepherdsglass.com.
Don't really have any major slowdowns to let you know about, so let's keep our fingers crossed and hope that continues through the rest of the morning.
803-404-6100 if you want to weigh in this morning, talking a little football recruiting. South Carolina yesterday did have a player hit the transfer portal. I think I'm kind of numb to this kind of stuff now at this point, Patrick. You just know what's going to happen. But South Carolina loses a freshman defensive back, Ladarian Craig, 6'2", 275 pounds. He was part of Shane Beamer's first recruiting class that I think, correct me if I'm wrong, only featured 7 high school, 7 recruits. There was a bunch of transfers in last year. We know about that. But Ladarian Craig was out of Mobile, Alabama, went to Baker High School, 6'2", 275 pounds. Didn't really contribute last year as he was trying to make the transition. Again, he was a cornerback. I had not heard much about him this past spring. And quite honestly, with the improvement of Darius Rush, who I think Darius Rush is a very interesting story going into 2022. And if he continues the development we saw last year under Torian Gray, and then you factor in some of the freshmen that they brought in, Emory Floyd and Keenan Nelson, a couple other players there, it'll be interesting to see how that secondary shakes out. But South Carolina does lose a player yesterday to the transfer portal. It will be an interesting weekend for South Carolina as it pertains to official visits, Patrick. The Gamecocks currently sitting around the mid-40s with their recruiting class, but you've got a couple people coming in this weekend that could really change the dynamics of that recruiting class. The two in particular that stand out is, and I hope I'm saying this correctly, Shandavian Bradley, 5-star defensive end out of Missouri, 6'5", about 220 pounds. Really, most reports I've read seem to indicate that this is a South Carolina-Tennessee battle. Bradley did visit Texas A&M last weekend, but again, a 5-star prospect, one of the top 30 prospects in the country. And then the number 1 ranked offensive lineman, or excuse me, I guess I need to go back and look and see who's 1 or 2, he or Monroe Freeling, but Marquis Anderson out of Dorman High School in the upstate, fresh off a visit to LSU, will be visiting South Carolina this weekend as well. And many people think Anderson and Bradley could both have decisions made in the month of July. So just something to keep an eye on there, and as it pertains to South Carolina and this weekend's visitors.
I'm looking at the visitor list right now, and there's a 4-star wide receiver from Mississippi,
Aiden Williams, I believe.
Defensive lineman 4-star from Thomaston, Georgia. Trayon Webb will be here. There's a lot of people. And by the way, I'm seeing Monroe Freeling, number 1 in the state.
Freeling is number 1.
Then Marquis Anderson, 6'4", 305. South Carolina, I mean, it's hard to even look at the rankings right now because I was looking at Texas at number 19, but their average is 92. I scored 92, right, which would be the 3rd highest right now, maybe. I mean, I'm like, Georgia's got a 93, Ohio State's got a 94. But that's just below Notre Dame, who's number 1 in the country. So it's really hard to really gauge. South Carolina's sitting there with an 87.7, which is better than a lot of people in front of them, but also Alabama's at 38 with a 96 average score. So the best teams are only taking elite recruits right now, and it's really hard to gauge. But South Carolina does need to add some blue chips to this class, and they needed to add some size because we talked about it the other day. They've got 3 safeties committed. They've got a wide receiver and a couple tight ends. They need some big guys. They need some defense. They need some pass rushers. They need some offensive linemen, and they need to fill out the rest of the roster because right now it looks like a lot of skill positions.
Yeah, you mentioned now the offensive line. We'll continue to see how it kind of plays out for South Carolina there. You did mention TJ Searcy, the defensive lineman who has already visited Clemson, visited Florida and Tennessee. Michigan could also be in the mix for him. Florida State considered the favorite right now. Trayon Webb, the 4-star running back out of Florida, welcome to recruiting, has already committed to, I think, Georgia and Oklahoma. I know Oklahoma was one of them. I believe he committed to Georgia already as well in the processes and is decommitted from both. So who knows what exactly he will be doing. Grayson Howard, a 4-star linebacker, expected to be back in Gainesville for an unofficial this week, but is heading to South Carolina this coming weekend. So it'll be kind of interesting to see how it all plays out for the Gamecocks as it pertains to recruiting and what they're able to do. Again, you mentioned Marquis Anderson and again, Shandavian and Bradley, the two guys that'll be on campus this weekend. I think you're really keeping an eye on because that's where South Carolina's got to continue to improve is along the lines of scrimmage. It does feel like in terms of the transfer portal, you can go out and find the skill position guys a lot easier than finding the very good linemen there.
I don't get why that is. I heard that. I mean, JC was going to be on with us. That's what he said. That I don't understand really the reasoning, but it's true. We haven't seen it. We've seen high pro. Is it because they're not as sought after, or they're not as with NIL? They don't feel like they're going to fetch as much money because if you're a great offensive guard and you put yourself in the open market, you're not going to fetch $1 million like a Jordan Addison will. Why is that not happening?
I think it's just you don't take away much from the Will Muschamp era, but one thing that I do kind of agree with what he said was the further away from the football you get, the easier it is to play. The linemen typically need more development, especially with a singular coach. I would assume it's just more difficult to transfer and come into your program. And quite honestly, if you've already played somewhere for 3 years and you're starting, you may as well stick it out one more year and then head on off to the NFL. It's a good question. 803-404-6100, how you can weigh in this morning. If you choose to do so, you can join us on our live stream as well, where you can go and catch us. Go to youtube.com, or you can go to the Facebook page as well, Facebook, and you can look up 107.5 The Game. So a couple different ways to join us. Again, JC Sherbert set to join us at 8 o'clock this morning to talk Carolina recruiting and more in the next hour. It's the early game on 107.5 The Game. Everybody, welcome Ray. Ray is the texter that we would always talk about, who would send in multiple text messages, multiple in meaning like 20 in a day, to the text line. And Ray has joined us. Welcome into the YouTube chat, Ray. We're glad you finally made it this far. Ray is actually a celebrity around here because Ray would send in 20 to 25 text messages a day on our text line, and he hasn't sent one. Ray, I don't think you're blocked. I don't know how to block anybody on this thing, so I assume.
Well, we got a new text line, so I don't know.
Not racing in. I thought racing in some on the text line. I thought Ray would text on the text.
Oh boy, don't
check him out. No, that's not Ray's hair. I don't think that's Ray's hair. Yeah, that was Ray was quite the celebrity around here because of the number of text messages he would send. Sometimes he would get confused and send us text messages with pictures of his workshop too, which it took us a few days to figure out what those were. I had to have him in. Hopefully you subscribe. Well, Ray's on Facebook. It's a Facebook, so I don't know if you can subscribe on Facebook.
I don't know. I don't know if he's.
Huh?
I don't think his name is safe because he was just texting in under a number, not a name.
Ray?
So like we have Ray's on the text line here, but it doesn't look like our guy.
It was Ray from Bowman.
Yeah, but you put that. He didn't say this is Ray from Bowman.
Right. Yeah, we don't. But I mean, still, we would know his text messages.
What was it?
He had a very distinct style of text messaging that we would know.
Well, yeah, but look who texted in at.
Oh, you're talking about it?
607.
Yeah, but I don't think that was it. Actually, I know that wasn't it. I don't know his number anymore. Like I did, because it would pop up anytime you text us 25 times. Like I remember your number, but no.
More happy people.
More happy people.
I'm actually gonna get it.
Want a donut?
Mm-hmm. I may have one.
They're American sprinkled.
Oh, because of the colors?
Yeah. I'm afraid to ask what you thought.
Well, no, I thought, what do you mean?
Pink, white, and black.
Well, no. The pink is sprinkles. That's what I said. They're American sprinkled. Yeah.
Well, I thought you meant like an American sprinkle them on there, like because you're being particular that no, it was somebody with a visa.
They're Neapolitan icing.
It looks good though.
They do look delicious.
Chocolate, vanilla, and strawberry.
Yeah.
That's Neapolitan for you.
Um,
Neapolitan ice cream.
All right. So you got your vibes.
I think we're good. JC at 8.
Sherbet. That's it, right?
Yep.
Okay. Should be easy.
Sounds easy enough.
Or at least an Arch Manning podcast up because everybody cares.
That's the thing's gonna catch on.
Hour number 2 of the early game. Bill Gunner, Patrick Perrette, Jen Jensen, all carrying you through here on a Friday morning, June the 24th. Hope you're doing well this morning. I've discussed a little bit of the NBA draft last night. Again, not really going to sit here.
Who won the draft yesterday?
Who won the draft? Okay. All right. We will do that. Who won the draft? Let's take a glance here and see who
Basketball player.
Basketball, yeah. Well, who won the draft is Paolo Banchero. He's a lot richer today than he was yesterday. Chet Holmgren, also a winner. Much, much more money today than he had yesterday. Jabari Smith, throw him into that category. You know what? You can really throw all 30 of the first round picks in that category as winners from yesterday. I guess if you had to pick a loser, if I'm looking, who got sent to the worst destination? I don't know. The Hornets.
What team won?
I think Detroit's the winner. Detroit picked up a bunch of picks.
I didn't get because they drafted Jaden Ivey, who was probably going to be the 4th pick if they could have dealt if Sacramento could have dealt the 4th pick. But Jaden Ivey said he didn't want to play for Sacramento. And then he's crying, like very, very emotional, happy for him. But why are you so anti-Sacramento, but then over the moon to play in Detroit?
Grandmother lives in Detroit. That was part of the interview. It was part of the interview last night that they talked about. He had
Detroit stinks. Right?
His dad was from Detroit. There was a bunch of background because he was on set with Jalen Rose, and Jalen Rose forgot that Jaden Ivey was there and turned it into a segment about himself. And poor Jaden Ivey's just sitting over there. Jalen Rose is talking about Detroit and home cooking and just going on and on and on about his growing up in Detroit and representing the city, and then and then all of a sudden he like clicked back into the segment. Was like, oh yeah, we're supposed to be talking about Jaden Ivey, and he's like, well, we welcome you to Detroit. And I kept thinking, like, dude, A, you played for Michigan, and B, you played for Indiana. Like you didn't play for the Detroit Pistons, so I realize that's your home, but you didn't exactly like rep Detroit. But yeah, there was a bunch of family ties to Detroit that made it work. But I mean, you saw that Detroit last night picks up Kemba Walker in a trade with the Pistons. So they get him. Some people might actually say that that's not picking up a great pick, but I got Pistons acquired Kemba Walker from the Knicks as part of a 3-team trade involving the Hornets, who also saw Detroit acquire draft rights to Jalen Duran, who I've kind of followed Duran's career. I mean, I think Detroit last night is the one. If I understand how everything went properly, they picked up Kemba Walker, who'll be their point guard. You got Ivy and Cunningham as your wings. You'll have Jalen Duran, who needs to develop some more, as your center. And they've got a few other nice little pieces to the puzzle there. Who was the guy that they just got, or they're going to get in free agency that they just signed, or they're bringing in? Yeah. They've also had another nice addition. I'm not predicting the Detroit Pistons to start winning NBA championships here, but I will say that it looked like on paper last night. That's who I would assign if we had to sit here. Marvin Bagley is their power forward, and they also have Sadiq Bey too as their small forward. They've got a pretty good roster, a young roster, very young roster.
The defending champion Warriors got Patrick Baldwin Jr., who was formerly the #1 recruit in the country. So a lot of potential there, but he's been injury hampered a couple years. But the upside there, they drafted Jonathan Kuminga last year. Tons of upside there. They have some long shots there that could just completely keep their windows open. The Grizzlies traded They drafted Ty Washington and Walker Kessler in the first round, who both of them I like a lot, and traded them to Minnesota. So Minnesota's getting better. By the way, I did look up the Bruce Pearl comments about Chet.
Uh-huh.
His quote was, "The NBA stands for no boys allowed, and that body scares me. It just does. He goes knee to knee with the wrong guy, and he could get broken in half. Therefore, at the very top of the draft, I think I got to go with what I know could potentially. I got to go with what I know, not what could potentially maybe someday be."
No, he's
So I
defending
think it's
his guy.
actually fair. Yeah, he said
Defending
Chet's
his guy.
intriguing, but so was Sean Bradley.
Okay. All right. Yeah.
Apparently, he said that Walker Kessler was better than Chet Holmgren.
Okay. So Bruce Pearl defending his guys to the max last night. So if you want to weigh in on the NBA draft again, I guess I said we weren't going to get into a complete breakdown, but there we go. We just gave you a complete breakdown in the first 4 minutes of this segment. Again, I made it to about draft pick 15 or 16 last night and then called it a night. So
Not super excited about Johnny Davis.
the family of
Wizards.
twins. That by the way, Johnny Davis, I
would have rather had
I don't-
Ty Washington at number 10.
I don't want to I just didn't put 2 and 2 together the last few weeks, but why did Johnny Davis, you've seen the Taco Bell commercials?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know why I just didn't put 2 and 2 together that Johnny Davis in those commercials was the Wisconsin player. I didn't watch the Badgers enough this year, but where in the commercial he goes up as the number 1 pick, pretends to be the number 1 pick. I don't know if he thought like he was going to have a chance to be the number 1 pick, or just Taco Bell gave him such a lucrative deal. But yeah, Johnny Davis goes to your Wizards last night, and they're still trying to figure out what in the heck to do with Bradley Beal.
It might not be up to them. I mean, he's gonna opt out of his $37-something million player option for this year because we can offer him 5 years. It's essentially what he can get is 5 years with almost $50 million a year, or if he leaves the Wizards, he can get 4 years with mid-40s a year. So there's really not going to be a bad deal for Bradley Beal.
803-404-6100. That's how you can join us this morning as we've talked a little NBA draft and then talked about the big football recruiting news yesterday, which involved Arch Manning. I did mention it could impact South Carolina in a roundabout way. Dylan Longren, the quarterback out of Brookwood, is basically down to South Carolina, Stanford, Alabama in some form or fashion there. And then there are some questions about what Georgia may do, as Georgia had gone all in on the Arch Manning sweepstakes as well.
Are they freaking out, by the way? I didn't.
Georgia?
I might hop on a Georgia message board or something this afternoon. Are they losing their mind?
They shouldn't be, because they've got a pretty stacked quarterback room right now. They're okay. Carson Beck is still there. And then you've got the other young man, not Gunnar Stockton,
No, it's
but the other young man whose name
Brock Vandagriff.
Brock Vandagriff. Thank you. They keep calling him BVG, and I knew it's not Brian Van
I like
Gorder.
that.
But yeah, Brock Vandagriff. They've got a quarterback room. They'll be okay. Alabama also seemingly okay. They will lose Bryce Young after this season, but Alabama's already got a commitment from Eli Holstein, who, by the way, some recruit nicks who I talk with, still kind of message with, especially when from time to time when we go to have them on the program, believe that Holstein is the actual better quarterback than Arch Manning. Like if you line the two up side by side and you put helmets on and you couldn't see whose face was whom and you didn't have a name on the back, Holstein is the better quarterback prospect than Manning. But Holstein's already committed there. You know, South Carolina, they can't turn anybody away. They've got to, you were just talking about it, you've got to continue to upgrade your talent, and Dylan Longren would certainly do that. But we'll see if Alabama wants to take 2 quarterbacks in this class, and Longren has made a visit to Tuscaloosa. Alabama is considered one of his favorites, and we'll see. He, I believe, is set to make a commitment in July. We'll kind of see exactly how that plays out for him, but that is something, just the Arch Manning domino effect of quarterbacks. We'll kind of see how that plays out for him over the next few weeks, and if that alters his thinking wherever he goes. And I go back to this, Patrick, and I brought it up. I almost wonder, with the transfer portal being the way it is, if most big time schools don't have to take 2 quarterbacks in every class now.
Well, who's going to be the one that commits to Texas with Arch Manning on the roster? I would love it if another high-profile quarterback was like, you know what? I've seen this kid play. If his name wasn't Manning, it wouldn't be on the. Yeah, I'm taking that job.
I get that job. Like, I know that it's Quinn Ewers, and maybe you don't go the elite quarterback route. Maybe you just find a guy who is going to be content to maybe be a backup, but work really hard and enjoy the opportunity of getting a scholarship to the University of Texas to be on the football team. It's kind of like I was reading an article the other day. Mike Krzyzewski's I think it's his grandson, the one that just got in trouble this past year
with Paolo.
Made
him change sheets.
Transfer out. He transferred to some Division II school in New York. And the article I was reading is, what would you rather do? Play 35 minutes a game at a Division II school or sit the bench and never play at Duke in basketball?
Sit the bench and never play at Duke.
I mean, and it's kind of like, would you rather go?
Well, I wouldn't play for Coach K, but if we switched this to another school,
John Shire?
Yeah.
Okay. It's kind of the same thing. There could be some quarterbacks who maybe in the future, because of the transfer portal. And Patrick, I think you and I agree on this, and I was talking to a buddy of mine about this yesterday. If you had to do away with one of the new rules, the NIL or the transfer portal, to at least rein in college football a little bit and to keep it from being free agency, I think you and I both agreed you've got to do away with the one-time free transfer because it's opening up free agency. And right now, quarterbacks, I mean, you look at South Carolina and how many quarterbacks they have, and I'm not sitting here saying that all of them are elite quarterbacks, but what I am saying is there's a lot of them right now when you talk about Bailey and Gauthier and Braden Davis and Luke Doty, and they just got the other kid in, Jalen Daniels, the walk-on kid. I mean, that's 5. Did I leave any out? That's 5.
I don't think so.
And if you get – I know people are yelling, you left out Spencer Rattler. Well, I meant you expect him to move on after this year. But I guess my point when I bring up all those names is you're not keeping all of them. They're going to battle it out, and then they're going to go, and there's no reason to not think
all the quarterbacks on Georgia's roster, they're not all staying.
Well, and that's what it is. Clemson saw that last year when Hunter Johnson transferred. What they had, Clemson fans could remind me, but I think it was 3 transfer out last year and left them with basically just 2 quarterbacks. As you try to build your program, you've got to be real careful with your quarterback depth because just like for South Carolina, all right, let's say all those guys will stay. I think they all understand Spencer Rattler is the starting quarterback this year. But then if he goes pro next spring, you've got them all battling it out. Well, if Luke Doty wins it again, maybe 1 or 2 look around and say, okay, I'll wait for his time to end. 3 could transfer out, and you could be down to 2 quarterbacks in the blink of an eye.
But also, injuries are not uncommon. Like,
true
for a kid saying, hey, for the Texas example, I'll go play in the class with Arch Manning. You said you find a kid who's basically content to be a backup. Maybe you just stumble into the next Mac Jones who just bides his time and is patient, and finally the opportunity arises. And maybe we'll see that happen because there's star-studded quarterback battles going on all around the SEC. But there's a chance that Garrett Nussmeier wins the job at LSU. There's a chance that happens because he's just knows the offense and makes the right decisions, even though he's clearly not as talented as Jaden Daniels or really Miles Brennan for that matter. Same in Ole Miss. Luke Altmaier outplayed Jackson Dart by a mile in their spring game. Jackson Dart has a ridiculous arm and has all the accolades as a recruit, but maybe he's getting too ahead of himself and just wants to sling the ball downfield and things that aren't necessarily effective. So a guy like Luke Altmaier comes in and wins the job. Like, there's still lots of cases of that in college football. So it's not necessarily just the stars necessarily don't matter. So there is a chance that you can stumble into something like that.
803-404-6100. That's how you can be a part of the program if you choose to do so this morning. We'll get out to the text line. We'll get a few comments in from the live stream as well. You're listening to Bill Gunner, Patrick Pratt, and Jen Jensen. It's the early game on 107.5 The Game. The weekend is upon us. That means getting out and enjoying some time with the family. Maybe you got a picnic planned, maybe go some hiking in the mountains, maybe go hang out at the beach and throw the frisbee around. All fun things to do, unless you're experiencing joint pain. Then you're probably just going to be sitting on the couch and be kind of miserable. Don't allow that joint pain to take away your summer or your fun for that matter. Call QC Kinetics today for a free in-office consultation to see what they can do for you. 803-281-6860. You can get real relief from pain with no surgery, no drugs, and no downtime. QC Kinetics is the nation's leader in these cutting-edge, all-natural options, and patient satisfaction reports are absolutely through the roof. So call today. Stop putting it off. Call QC Kinetics to learn more about their regenerative medicine, and you can get a totally free in-office consultation. 803-281-6860. Again, that's 803-281-6860. Whether it's hip pain, knee pain, back, shoulder, it just takes the fun out of living. Don't allow it to do it any longer. Call today for that free in-office consultation. 803-281-6860. That's QC Kinetics. RL, if I'm thinking correctly, let me go back and confirm. Let's see. The grandson was the Michael Savavino. Yeah, that was him. I mean, you're right. You get the garbage minutes, but he played in 11 games this year. They played 39 games. He played in a third of them, and the most garbage minutes he ever played was
2.
Was that it?
No, I don't know. I'm guessing because that's usually what it is.
He
They
got
literally
4. His max was 4 against. His max was 4 against Army and South Carolina State. He got a 4-minute run against Elon and 4 minutes against Syracuse. Other than that, 4 games with a minute. 5 games with a minute and 2 games with 2 minutes.
And in those minutes on offense, you just pass the ball around and kill the shot clock.
Yeah. He scored 3. He hit 1, 2, 3. He hit 4 3-pointers this year. He was – so I don't know. I mean, I understand what you're saying. He played he played a total of – I just saw it. 23 minutes, I thought.
The transfer portal, I don't think, does this, though, because quarterbacks, for whatever reason, were always able to leave. It was like the one position where, even without the transfer portal, quarterbacks were being allowed to leave.
Well, but they would still have to sit out. So you were maybe
Justin Fields didn't, and then there's other quarterbacks that were able to just go.
But, I mean, Justin Fields, whatchamacallit, was very his waiver was very controversial.
Yeah.
He got to,
but I also don't really agree with the spreading out the star players because you have Alabama right now has 2 of their starters now are going to be Jahmyr Gibbs, who was turned into a star player at Georgia Tech and decides to go to Alabama. Now they've got Tyler Harrell, who's maybe the fastest player in college football, turned into a star at Louisville. Now he's going to Alabama. So some of the guys are just becoming stars and then going to the schools that already have all the stars. So I don't think it's really spreading them out.
No, RL. I know what he's talking about. Like Justin Fields was not a grad transfer, and
no, he's talking about the Ohio State QB room where Joe Burrow left, and the QB room was ridiculous at one time. It was like, I think it was Braxton Miller, JT Barrett, Cardale Jones, Joe Burrow, and then the next year was like JT Barrett, Cardale Jones, Joe Burrow, Dwayne Haskins. I know their QB rooms have been ridiculous, and then Jack Miller this last year, Jack Miller transfers.
So no,
Justin Fields was in that room.
2017 QB room, the tail of the 2017 Ohio State quarterback room continues to defy reality.
Well, he might be talking about last year's QB room, which had
the 27 had JT Barrett, Dwayne Haskins, Joe Burrow, and it also had Tate Martell.
Oh, nice. I actually do think RL's probably. Oh, he said the last 6 years. Yeah, but last year Ohio State's QB room had C.J. Stroud, Kyle McCord, Jack Miller, and Quinn Ewers.
I thought it was. Or was that? Am I crazy? I thought it might have been.
But yeah, I don't think it's spreading out the star players. I think it's allowing the best teams to bring star players from other schools in. Like Jordan Addison is now going to a school with a bunch of stars.
Well, what you see is like you don't see Alabama losing. I mean, the quarterback position, yes, because like you said,
the star players are not going from great schools.
Well, that's what I was going to say. Like the wide receiver that went from Alabama to Texas was an elite recruit, but had not done anything.
Not a star player in college football, yeah. Yeah, I think it's doing the exact opposite.
Oh, I forgot to tease the.
Oh, yeah. I have nothing to say about this player.
All right, listen to that.
To third-ranked Georgia. Keyed by a monster day from cornerback Israel Mukuamu, Carolina found itself in this position in the second overtime. Here are Todd and Tommy.
Blankenship will attempt a 42-yard field goal. He's had one blocked on the day. Plenty of distance for him. He's got in this gearbox. But Carolina's blocked. Blankenship looks, nods, says he's ready to take it to the third overtime. Kicks it up. And no good! That's it! He missed it! And the Gamecocks win it at Athens in second overtime. Carolina takes down number 3, Georgia. They win it 20-17.
I am not believing that.
A 2 overtime victory against the number 3 team in the country. We break a 4-game losing streak, and Georgia trots to the locker room.
And that's our old-timey clip of the day, sponsored by Old Timey Meat Market, with 3 locations: Lexington, South Congaree, and St. Andrews Road in Irma.
Broadcasting live from the Herndon Chevrolet Studios. This is 107.5 The Game. Stop by or shop online today and see why Herndon Chevrolet makes you smile. To celebrate Carolina's 30th anniversary in the SEC, it's 107.5 The Game's 30 for 30. The 30 best Gamecocks football players over the last 30 years. Number 17.
Hey, what's up? AJ Cann, offensive guard, University of South Carolina.
AJ Cann are the ideal guys that I want in front of me.
AJ Cann went to Bamberg Earhart High School in Bamberg, South Carolina, where he played football and competed in track. Cann was redshirted as a freshman in 2010 and took over at guard in 2011.
A lot of guys look at me and see that AJ is going to work hard. He's going to give it everything he's got.
Overall, Cann was a 4-year starter, starting 51 games, second most in school history. As a senior in 2014, Cann started all 13 games and was named an All-American. Cann was drafted by the Jacksonville Jaguars in the 3rd round of the 2015 NFL Draft.
I look at my phone, Florida area code, and I pick it up, it's Jacksonville, and I couldn't even lift my head up. I don't know what to say.
Number 17.
AJ Cann, offensive guard, University of South Carolina.
It's 107.5 The Game's 30 for 30. The top 30 Gamecocks football players from Carolina's 30 years in the SEC. Keep listening as we count them down from 30 to 1 on your home of the Gamecocks. 107.5 The Game.
$7:24 on your Friday morning commute. Bill Gunner, Patrick Perrette, Jen Jensen. We got donuts in the studio, got some iced coffee. We're having a blast getting you through the final Friday of the month of June. Next Friday will be July 1st. We will be into, as Gamecock Larry likes to call it, officially it'll be talking season. Or in Gamecock Larry lingo, talking trash season, when you really start needling your rival. So Clemson fans, I know you've won a lot in a row. We're going to start picking on you. We're going to start talking trash. That makes Gamecock Larry happy and makes it entertaining as we count down the days till the start of college football season. If you want to weigh in this morning, 803-404-6100. You can go and hop on our live stream where Hope and Troy and RL and Craig are all in there weighing in and talking a little bit amongst themselves. Hope saying AJ was a good player. Somehow wouldn't have guessed he would have been this high, referring to player number 17 on our top 30 countdown, AJ Cann. And Patrick, it doesn't matter. I don't. Is there an offensive lineman we would throw up on a list and be like, yes, that guy should be on? Like, is there an offensive lineman?
It's hard unless you have one of these generational type players, like I think like a Jake Long, or some of these number one offensive tackle picks. Then it makes sense. But I mean, all I know about AJ Cann, he's been a mainstay in Jacksonville. He's just signed with the Texans, but he's basically started every game for Jacksonville for the last 6 years, something like that.
Yeah, look, AJ Cann, and I was telling Patrick off air, when AJ Cann committed to South Carolina, I was working for thebigspur.com and went down and covered it. And AJ and his family were absolutely phenomenal people. And, you talk about two things about an offensive lineman. You talk about building a culture, and you also just talk about building a football team. And I go back, Clemson had all these great skill players, Sammy Watkins, CJ Spiller. You can even go back to James Davis, and they were getting all these great skill players. Clemson really took the necessary steps forward to be national title winners when they improved their lines of scrimmage. When that defensive line, you mentioned it, Cleveland Farrell, and you mentioned a whole bunch of guys that they had over that really 3-4 year run. And South Carolina, same thing. South Carolina didn't win national titles, but South Carolina made strides, made the big steps to 11-win seasons when the defensive line and the offensive line really became elite in the league. And a lot of people still say, well, the offensive line for South Carolina with Marcus Lattimore, it could have been better. Well, geez, I guess you could have put some guys there that maybe they would have been NFL-esque, like offensive lines at South Carolina. But you look at it, Brandon Shell was part of that. He's gone on to a very good career. Corey Robinson had a nice little run in the NFL. You just mentioned it. AJ Cann is in how many years do you say? 6?
2015 to now, so 7 years.
AJ Cann has been very good. TJ Johnson was an offensive lineman there for South Carolina that was very good. South Carolina really took the strides necessary when the offensive line got much better, and defensive line for that matter as well. And we all know about those defensive linemen. But AJ Cann was a huge part of being an anchor. You heard it there. Started over 50 games in his career. This was a young man who came in and made an instant impact. But because it's an offensive lineman, and, if Marcus Lattimore breaks off a 30-yard run, or we don't notice or care.
Right.
Oh, Marcus Lattimore is incredible. Doesn't matter what that guy did. But that was a big part of it, and being the stability of AJ Cann and being able to play without injury, which offensive line, Patrick, is extremely difficult.
Which he's done in the NFL, too. He's played in 95 games in 7 years. He's played 14, 15, or 16 games pretty much every year except for last year.
Yeah, I mean, he will go down. You go back through.
I mean, was he dominant?
Who knows? I don't know. I never watched the offensive line. I'm not going to sit here and pretend like.
Unless you see, like, Quentin Nelson is the definition.
I have no idea who that is.
Quentin Nelson?
Yep, no idea. Who is he?
You're playing a joke because is this I don't know, offensive lineman thing?
Yeah, pretty much. I have
okay. It was a top 5 pick, the Notre Dame guy who plays for the Colts.
Right. No. Okay.
He's the meanest offensive lineman in the league. Like, you noticed him every play because
do you?
He's downfield.
That's my point. Like, do you?
Yeah, because he's literally throwing guys. Like, he's going to go down as one of the best offensive linemen, best offensive guards of all time because he just absolutely throws guys on every single play. But an interior offensive lineman who just does their job on every play, you're never noticing.
Well, our list.
I don't understand the voting. Are our listeners just so advanced at watching offensive line play or just knowing offensive line play that they did this, they chose him? Or is it just because I think someone just mentioned it. Oh, RL says, I think him on this list gives credence to the fact that players in NFL careers are influencing voting. And yeah, I mean, AJ Cann has been one of the more stable NFL players from South Carolina of the last 7 years. So if he wasn't starting in the NFL for the last 7 years, I don't know if he'll be on this list. I don't remember. I don't know anything about how he played at South Carolina.
Well, he was very good. And again,
he's a 4-year starter. That's something.
And I am with you in terms of if AJ Cann had played in 2000, I don't know if anybody remembers him. but he was a massive recruit, and I'd say that he had offers from pretty much everywhere in the country. He was a 4-star prospect, could have chosen wherever he wanted to go. He was a guy who came in and really was also a part of the major turnaround for South Carolina, going from 7-5 each and every year under Steve Spurrier to ending up where they would be. He was a year ahead of Brandon Shell. I just mentioned Brandon Shell and what he then came in and did. So Can was a 2010 recruit out of Bamberg and came in and ended up being a very solid player for South Carolina. I also think this is he was rated as he was the 100, this is according to 24/7 Sports. He was the 140th rated player in the nation. He was the number 3 interior offensive lineman in that particular class, and committed to South Carolina on June 17th. I'm now looking at his bio, June 17th of 2009. Again, yeah, there's a lot of factors in this because as I go through our list that you could have voted on, Ernest Dye, Patrick went on, and I don't know the remaining 17 players on the list, but I'll bet money Ernest Dye is not on this list. And Ernest Dye went on to a very nice NFL career. The last I remember, because I think I still got a football card with him from his days with the Arizona Cardinals. But Ernest Dye was a guy who's now 50 out of Greenwood, who had a very good career again from 93 to 96 with the Cardinals, with the Rams, and then back with the Cardinals again. So nothing wrong with him there, and ended up being a very good player. So you talk about him. Travell Wharton had a very long career in the NFL. Now is an NFL coach. He's a guy from the early 2000s. Jamon Meredith was a very good tackle. I'm reading the list where you could have voted on guys like this. Melvin Page is an older offensive lineman. Jamar Nesbitt, who does the sideline reporting for South Carolina. Again,
Super Bowl champion.
a lot of good guys. I don't want to put down AJ Can in any way, shape, or form, but yeah, and I agree with this. Darby says most of the listeners to the station have never played a game of football in their lives, much less watched offensive line play. I'm with you, Darby. Yeah, I'm with you, Patrick. When you mention your offensive lineman that I've already forgotten his name, yeah, I don't watch the Colts. I don't watch the Colts, much less when I do watch the Colts, I'm not watching the offensive line.
Oh, you know who's the best at whatever position, though? Maybe not. I don't know.
Yeah. 803-404-6100 if you want to weigh in. We'll continue on. It's the early game on 107.5 The Game.
To celebrate Carolina's 30th anniversary in the SEC, it's 107.5 The Game's 30 for 30. The 30 best Gamecocks football players over the last 30 years. Number 25, wide receiver, Pharaoh Cooper.
Touchdown Carolina! Touchdown Pharaoh Cooper!
Number 24, tight end, Hayden Hurst.
Touchdown Hayden Hurst! 62 yards out.
Number 23, defensive back, Jonathan Joseph.
Jonathan Joseph with the interception for South Carolina.
Number 22, wide receiver, running back, Ryan Brewer.
Ryan Brewer, his heart is pumping right now.
Number 21, tight end, Jared Cook.
Newton fires over the middle, wide open for a touchdown. Jared Cook, the tight end.
It's 107.5 The Game's 30 for 30. The 30 best Gamecocks football players over the last 30 years. Keep listening as we count them down from 30 to 1. On your home of the Gamecocks, 107.5 The Game.
Did you know the absolute best time to get your carpets and air ducts cleaned? It's during the hot, humid summer months. The bacteria and allergens that are an all-time high in your home. That means it's time to call Zerorez today. Get them out. You can call them. You can book with ease online. So the phone number, 803-262-4020. You can book online with ease, ZerorezColumbia.com. And guess what? Zerorez is ready to make sure that house is nice and clean, and they're doing it with a deal. 15% off all cleaning services. Again, carpet, rugs, upholstery, tile, and air ducts, all 15% off if you book online. Again, that's ZerorezColumbia.com. Use the promo code Summer Sale. You get 15% off. If you call 803-262-4020, mention my name, Bill Gunner, at 107.5 The Game, and you'll get 15% off. Again, carpet, rugs, upholstery, tile, air ducts, whatever you need. Right now, Zerorez has got you taken care of. They are the most recommended cleaning company in the Midlands. Over 1,500 Google reviews. Zerorez is doing the job, not just for me, but for many here in the Midlands, and they're ready to help you keep that house clean. So right now, give them a phone call, 803-262-4020. Mention my name, Bill Gunner, at 107.5 The Game, and you'll get 15% off all cleaning services. Again, carpet, rugs, upholstery, tile, and air ducts, or book with ease. ZerorezColumbia.com. Use the promo code Summer Sale. Zerorez, spell it backwards or forwards. It's the right way to clean.
107.5 The Game traffic from the Shepherd's Glass Traffic Center. Shepherd's Glass, a true reflection of quality. ShepherdsGlass.com.
And still have a bit of a report that could see an object on the highway, I-20.
Let's see. Oh, are we on? Let's see. Craig, I'll tell you the votes. I mean, I'll just tell you the voting disparity. Or I'll give you a little bit of a hint at it. Let's see. Where's my list? Here we go. All right. Voting disparity.
How many days are going to be left until the season once this list is over with?
Plenty. We're at 17.
We need to do the top 50 players of the.
We're at 17. Are we at 17? We're at 17. So next week is 16, 15, 14, 13, 12. Then we come back for 4 days, and apparently we're going to double up and do some guys.
I want the top players, top 30 players from every era. I want the top 30 players from the original independent era, 1903 to 1921.
Totally understandable.
I want the top 30 players from the Southern Conference era, 1922 to 1952. Ooh, that's 30 years. Perfect. If we asked Tommy to do that, he'd for sure do it.
I will say this. This is interesting. To Craig's point, A.J. Cann had 119 more votes. So starting at 30, which was Steven Garcia, there's been 119 vote disparity. So A.J. Cann had 119 more votes than Steven Garcia. Cann had 9 more votes than Tannehill. The next player that you'll hear about on Monday has 24 more votes than Cann. And then there's actually a significant jump into the top 15, actually. 15 and 14 are tied.
So are third, fourth, and fifth.
Oh, yeah, they are. How about that? Seems about right.
So I don't know how they're going to.
Let me ask the number one player, without saying it, the number one player, do you think that's how many people voted? That number that's next to his name?
No.
Like nobody voted and left him off, right?
Yeah, but you would say that about at least the first.
You definitely say that. Yeah, I'm with you.
Definitely at least the first 7 or 8 players.
That's a good point.
That's why it's kind of crazy that he won.
There you go. (803-404-6100). How you can join us this morning. York saying on the way to Orlando. Well, safe trip, York. Be careful. He said, I picked from each position group. It takes a team. Tyson weighing in. He says, if Cann is that high and Wharton ends up not on the list, scrap the whole thing because it's not valid anymore. And Randall, Walter Burrow says, we only notice O-line play when they're not doing their job. And that's true because, Patrick, we talked a lot of offensive line this past year, and mostly because it was replays when offensive linemen were not doing their job.
They weren't even attempting to do their job.
It's true. It's
That was
true.
actually the worst part is they weren't even getting beaten. They were just actually not doing their job.
Right.
Just standing there.
Well, most of the time they would look over. I always enjoyed the ones where they would look over and be like, I'm pretty sure I'm supposed to block that guy, but I'm being told not to block that guy.
Are
Like,
you going to block him? Should I have done? Should I have blocked him?
803-404-6100. How you can join us this morning if you want to weigh in. Coming up in about 20 minutes, we're going to catch up with JC Sherbert, BigSpur.com. Talk a little recruiting. It is a big recruiting weekend for South Carolina. A couple big time prospects on campus, and we will catch up with him tonight. Patrick, NHL back in action, 8 p.m. ABC, where you can catch it. It is back out in Colorado. 3-1 lead. Avalanche up on the Lightning. Avalanche big favorite tonight, by the way, minus 180 on the money line. They are 32-5-4 at home. 32-5-4 this season in Colorado. Any chance Tampa's able to squeak one out and get it back to Tampa for game 6?
There's definitely a chance, but no, I think this is it. I think that overtime loss is backbreaking. I think they know in their hearts we can't win. We can't win 3 in a row against this team, especially with a couple of them on the road. They've got all the momentum right now, Colorado. It's going to be a raucous atmosphere. I'm expecting them to maybe Tampa's hope will be Vasilevsky plays just lights out, because I think the Avalanche they're clearly much faster. Nazem Kadri being back adds a different element to their team as well. They're gonna outshoot Tampa close to 2-1. I think it's gonna be they're gonna be flying around.
One other thing, Tampa is beaten up. Braden Point, I've not seen if he is definitely out for tonight, but he is certainly. I would say unlikely. Yeah, Nikita Kucherov is banged up. Anthony Cirelli is banged up. This Tampa team, back-to-back Stanley Cup winners, but it's going to take really a near miracle, Patrick, for them to find a way to win tonight, let alone 2 more games if they were to win that one to win the series. So again, Colorado a big favorite tonight, minus 180, 32-5-4. They are in Colorado. Tampa 24-15-2 away from home. So we'll see tonight how that plays out. Again, that'll be 8 p.m. tonight. And if that is indeed the final game, Patrick, that'll have basically wrapped up the winter spring sports. We'll be done with the NBA. We'll be done with the NHL. We'll be on to MLB.
No, there will be no sports on until football.
Well, you got the Major League Baseball and the Canadian Football League, which we've already discussed this morning.
Yeah, crazy that if the Avalanche win tonight, there's no sports until football season starts.
You're just giving it. When the Nationals are as bad as they are, Patrick just completely moves on.
I can't believe I'm not going to be able to watch sports until August 27th.
Is no Canadian Football League, and since the Nationals stink, he's not going to watch any of it. We'll come back. We'll wrap up hour number 2 here of the early game. You're listening to Bill Gunner, Patrick Pratt, and Jen Jensen. It's 107.5 The Game. Couple things to tell you about AAA Heating and Air, someone who's always taking care of me when my air conditioner needs a little work. They have treated me like a family member. They've gotten out. They've done a maintenance package, made sure that everything was working properly. And on days like the last few, I am thankful that I use AAA Heating and Air. You need to do the same. Right now, if you're in the market for a brand new heating and air unit, AAA Heating and Air has you taken care of. Right now, $1,500 rebate to buy back your old unit. Then they'll work with you. For qualified buyers, 0% financing. But even if you have bad credit, if something's wrong with your credit, AAA Heating and Air guarantees financing. And on top of that, they offer you a 15-year parts and labor warranty that is absolutely transferable. So AAA Heating and Air, getting you taken care of, making sure that heating and air unit continue to work even after they've put it in by that 15-year parts and labor warranty. They aren't just running away. You can call them today, 803-677-1500. Again, that's 803-677-1500. What you do need to do is tell them you heard it right here on 107.5 The Game with Bill Gunner. That way you get all the great little perks, pluses that come from just knowing my name. You don't even have to know who I am, just my name. So call AAA Heating and Air today, 803-677-1500. Tell them you heard it here on 107.5 The Game with Bill Gunner. Also, want to tell you about AAA Heating and Air. If you are a top HVAC technician and you're ready to stop working and start a career, you can earn up to $100,000 a year at AAA Heating and Air. Quality candidates will have a 2-year experience and a good driving record. You can apply in person at AAA Heating and Air's Lexington office. So if you're an HVAC technician and you're ready to start a career with a fantastic family-oriented company, go visit AAA Heating and Air in person at their Lexington office. AAA Heating and Air, they've taken care of me. They'll take care of you. Give them a phone call today, 803-677-1500. Tell them Bill Gunner sent you. 803-404-6100 coming up in about 10 minutes. JC Sherbert will join us to talk a little football recruiting this morning. South Carolina with a big weekend, Patrick, of recruiting. Again, you kind of mentioned it. I don't have the full list right in front of me. Do you have the full list of?
I believe so. Yeah.
Who you got?
Visitors. Chandavian Bradley, edge rusher, Marquis Anderson, offensive line, Aiden Williams, wide receiver, TJ Searcy, defensive line, Trayon Webb, running back, Grayson Howard, linebacker, Trevon Ball, who's committed, the offensive lineman who's committed, Jaden Robinson, linebacker, Zabari Sandy, the safety that's committed, Vakari Swain, an athlete from Carrollton, Georgia, CJ Adams, wide receiver, DJ Geth, offensive line.
There you go. And Geth and Marquis Anderson, both from Dorman High School, will be on campus. Both kind of considered to be maybe South Carolina leans, North Carolina. The main competition for them as we talk about the offensive line a little bit this morning because of our number 17 player in our countdown of top 30 prospects being AJ Cann. Patrick, to go back to your point, and I agree with you on what you're saying. South Carolina has got to land. It's great to be in the top 2 for a lot of these prospects, and South Carolina's done a good job, Shane Beamer and his staff, of getting themselves in position for a Chandavian Bradley, for Trayon Webb, a Marquis Anderson, again, Jaden Greathouse, who's already visited, is a top flight receiver, Tyler Williams. They're in the top 2 or 3 for those guys, but you have to land them. It can't just be, oh, we're getting our name in the mix. You've got to land them to compete with the Georgias and the Texas A&Ms of the world right now that you're going to face. And who knows what the schedule looks like here in the next 3 or 4 years when the SEC elects to redo that. Maybe you get stuck with a Texas every year and you're seeing Arch Manning.
That's why we need to get Lamborghinis, private planes, and get over to Owens. Was Owens Field? That's where people fly the private planes fly into, right?
Yeah.
We need to get them now.
What you're suggesting
Jaden
is
Bradford visited Louisville yesterday, I think.
Oh, did he?
Yeah.
So what you're saying is you got to take the if you don't know what Patrick's talking about, the Louisville approach, whatever the air hangar, whatever they had, was it?
They put them on, not just the air hangar, they put them on the field too. Well, they put the planes obviously in the hangar, and then they had a bunch of Lamborghinis and Porsches and Ferraris or whatever on the field.
If you haven't seen it, you can go to Twitter and look up what Louisville did last week. They had private jets, so it was like a dinner party that they had for recruits. They had private jets where players could go in them and kind of hang out. They had dinner tables. And then if you noticed, I don't know if you noticed this part, and I assumed what I was looking at was like kind of like as a backdrop, they had platforms like in between the jets with lights and everything where you could go take a picture. I don't know if you noticed that. So like
the photo op is everything now.
It has actually become a little bit of everything. So yeah, it's very interesting to say the least. But what schools are doing right now to try and convince kids. Years ago, were you old enough to remember the Willie Williams saga where he documented, I can't remember for which publication, his official visits and all the food he ate and the trouble he got in? He was the linebacker. I think he was out of Miami. He committed to Miami, but Willie Williams.
Names like that though.
You need to go back.
Johnny Johnson.
During the break here, you need to go back and see if we can locate the Willie Williams. The first thing that comes up is Willie Williams, the tragic story of Willie Williams, college football's first celebrity recruit. And yeah, you need to go back and read this thing. I think he actually, to be honest with you, I think he started at Kentucky and transferred to Louisville. I think I've got to go back and look at that to be sure, but you need to go back and read this and look at the stories that came out of, because he documented. Like I think he wrote I think he was for Sports Illustrated. 803-404-6100 if you remember the Willie Williams stuff, but that was wild stuff back then. And that was, I think, the first sign into, oh my goodness, what happens on these official visits? What are these kids doing? Like up until I think Willie Williams, the stories you heard were like firsthand from recruits, but they weren't published or mentioned on the internet. It was like, man, I know so-and-so who took an official visit to Georgia, and what a wild time they had. Or there was a wild story about Demetrius Summers on his official visit being left at a particular establishment and his mother having to go and pick him up from said establishment. by player. Like you'd hear these stories, but they weren't documented. Well, then Willie
Right.
Williams comes along and starts writing about like going on an official visit and ordering like 4 lobsters at dinner.
Must be nice.
They didn't do that on lacrosse official visits.
No, not quite. They were fun though. The crossfish were fun.
Were
Okay.
they?
Oh yeah, it was just going out,
Just going out.
going to the bars. Yeah.
There you go. Yeah, it was
One of them, I was in a school in Boston, and I was outside of Fenway Field for the night that David Ortiz hit 3 home runs in the World Series.
on your official visit,
On my official visit, yeah.
and you didn't still go to that. What school was that?
That was called Emmanuel. It was a Division III school.
Oh, okay.
In Fenway, outside of Boston.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sure the Division III was trotting out a bunch of great meals and
No, but they just said, "Here's your dining hall ticket." So I got
Okay.
to eat as much as I want, but it was certainly not lobster. Lobster.
Read
It wasn't Boston.
read the Willie Williams stuff you need to. JC Sherbert coming up in the next hour, and we will wrap up our episode on Friday. It's the early game, 107.5 The Game.
Promo.
Kimba to the Pistons. Wait, is there a player who's just dropped off faster than Kimba Walker? John Wall? Maybe.
Yeah, I mean, John Wall got hurt and then got fat.
They paid him $44 million last year to not play so they could stink and get the number 3 pick.
There's actually who was it? Who's our starting point guard right now? Oh, it was Thomas Satoransky. I think he's Czech, and there was apparently quotes from an interview he did with a Czech magazine saying something along the lines of, all of the like superstars I've played with have been really hard workers and good teammates except for John Wall. He was basically a terrible example and went out all the time and didn't really care.
All right, JC says he's good for 2 segments.
Sweet.
Yeah. So I'd say make cut at 8:14 to bring you back for a second segment about 8:30. He would honestly do that. He likes doing the live stream where he can be seen. I just
Have to explain to him that he has to hang or
Jen Jensen.
William Byron referring to Joey Logano, Jen, as a moron and an idiot.
Yeah, standard.
Vocabulary straight out of the Jen Jensen playbook right there when not happy with how something ends.
On your home of the Gamecocks, 107.5 The Game.
Eight 803-404-6100. Anything you hear this hour that you want to weigh in with, feel free to do so. It's Bill Gunner. It's Patrick Pratt. It's Jen Jensen. It's the final hour of the final Friday of June. Big recruiting weekend coming up for South Carolina. We're going to get to J.C. Sherbert here in just a minute and get the lowdown on that. South Carolina hosting, did you say 12 visitors? Is that right? Or am I just making up the number 12?
I didn't say the number 12. It could very well be 12.
A lot of numbers I just spouted out. Phone numbers, dates. It's the 24th, the final Friday of June.
It is 12.
I knew it. That's why I read thebigspur.com. I have all the information, all because I make sure I check out the Big Spur each and every morning before I come on in. And then I am prepared for the radio show. And joining us now is the man that works and owns the Big Spur, J.C. Sherbert. How you feeling this morning, big guy?
Hey, I'm feeling great, guys. Great to be with you this morning.
Good to hear from you. It is a big weekend for South Carolina. Let's start with this, JC. You brought it up. I think, Patrick, you said JC brought it up a while back. This is a big weekend for linemen for South Carolina. Marquis Anderson and Shandavian Bradley. We kind of agree. Recruiting is where you have to land your linemen, right? Because the transfer portal seems more geared toward the skill players. Are you with us on that?
Oh yeah, I'm definitely with you. I mean, you look at just the sheer numbers per position, and it's a little easier to go out and find quality receivers, tight ends, running backs, even quarterbacks, especially because of the nature of that position in the transfer portal. But linemen, especially on the offensive side of the ball. Now, the defensive line, I think, you look at South Carolina specifically, they were able to get Terrell Dawkins, and there's been some guys that have hit the portal at that spot. They're a little more rare than the skill positions, but they're not as rare as quality offensive linemen. And that's a spot that's so developmental. You even look at the draft this year and this past season, and you look at the linemen, offensive linemen, you got guys from Northern Iowa. You got a guy that played at I think Princeton or somewhere, and then transferred, or Davidson, and then transferred to an FCS school and got drafted. The list goes on. Guy from Chattanooga. List goes on and on. And so I think it's important to sign your numbers there. And like a coach told me one time, if you sign 5 good offensive linemen out of high school and 3 of them pan out, that's a good day on the recruiting trail. So it is important. And I think when you look at Marquis Anderson and DJ Guest specifically, South Carolina's kind of been on a losing streak at Dorman High School up in Spartanburg County, and Roebuck, I guess, is where it's at now. It's hard for me to say that since when I grew up, it was by the mall in Spartanburg. But, I think Hart Turner is the last guy that came from Dorman that panned out. Michael Belcher was the last guy that they signed out of Dorman. That was the Holtz era. Sort of that transition year between Holtz and Spurrier. That's a long time. And Dorman's a good program, great program, really, by some standards, and puts out players just about every year. So with Anderson and Guest, if you can get those guys, there are reasons other than the fact that they're good offensive line prospects that the Gamecocks want to get them, and I think they lead for both heading into the weekend.
Do you think 5 is the number? You mentioned number 5. I don't know if that was just a random number. Do you think that's what they're kind of looking for? Because we've talked about just the breakdown of this class right now. You've already got 3 safeties. You got a couple tight ends. You've got a couple receivers now. You really do need to build the trenches. So what kind of numbers are they looking for? And is that just kind of going to fill out the rest of the class?
Yeah, I think on the offensive line, 5's probably the number. I think on defense, if you look at the roster and how it currently breaks down, they're in pretty good shape on the interior of the defensive line. You still have young guys like Boogie Huntley and Tonka Hemingway. They really like TJ Sanders, who's a redshirt freshman out of Marion. They got Nick Barrett, a player out of North Carolina. They got in the last class. So I think those numbers are going to be probably lower than people anticipate on defensive tackle, maybe 2, 3, something like that. But at edge, I think they'll take as many as quality pass rushers as they can get. And of course, with Shandavian Bradley, the 5-star player out of the Kansas City area coming in this weekend, the Gamecocks have made, according to folks out there, they've made a big move. So it's on as far as Carolina being a legitimate contender for his services. They had Jabron Harvey in out of North Carolina a couple of weeks ago. So the edge players are really the focus, I think, in this class. And, rightfully so. You got Jordan Strong, Jordan Birch coming back. I mentioned Terrell Dawkins earlier, and then beyond that, you kind of go, well, is it Gilbert Edmond? Is it Tyreek Johnson? Who are the guys 2023 and beyond that are going to be able to rush the passer? And I don't know that they won't have to hit the portal too again this year for a immediate help pass rushing guy. But that's kind of the focus. I don't think they're done at linebacker by any stretch. You got the 2 guys coming in this weekend from Florida, 4-star Pup Howard from Jacksonville, and then 4-star Jaden Robinson from Lake City, Columbia. Those are 2 guys that are awfully good linebacker prospects, and then they continue to evaluate beyond that. So that's kind of the scope of it right now. And lines of scrimmage, that was always going to be a focus in this class, and it's playing out that way.
JC Sherbert joining us from thebigspur.com. Back to Shandavian Bradley. Obviously, adding talent to your roster is a big deal. Patrick brought this up earlier, and I ask you because you've covered it forever. Landing a guy like Bradley, and it sounds like, and you can tell me I'm wrong or say, no, I think that's what I'm hearing, but it sounds like it's South Carolina or Tennessee kind of hit for his services right now. That, as far as I can remember, would be the biggest out-of-area get that in the last 30 years. I mean, I said it's Marshawn Lloyd right now, in an area that South Carolina doesn't necessarily recruit. They've become more active in the DMV area and up that way now under Shane Beamer. Ryan Holinsky was the other out of California. Am I missing one? I mean, perception-wise, so many good things going for South Carolina. If they're able to land a Bradley, would that be the biggest out-of-area get? And perception-wise, what does that do for Shane Beamer in South Carolina, in your opinion?
Well, I think as far as high school players, yeah. I mean, you got to keep in mind Spencer Rattlers from Arizona and Austin Stodner's from Oklahoma, and Devontae Wells is from Detroit, Michigan. I mean, or Devontae, no, it's not Devontae Wells, it's Devontae Reed from Detroit, Michigan. So they've expanded. If you look at South Carolina's players they've brought in specifically under Beamer, and you put them on a map, it would be much more, expansive, I guess, than under the previous 2 staffs. Coach Spurrier liked to stay kind of in that 4-state area, and Coach Muschamp occasionally would go find some players somewhere, like Texas or wherever. But, this has been very interesting, as far as the geography. And I'm really into that kind of stuff. I really kind of think it's neat. I track it and all that. But, yeah, I mean, you hit the 2 in Lloyd and Holinsky as far as top guys out of high school from further away. And, this guy's a 5-star edge rusher from Kansas City, which is, I think Kyle Markway, they got him out of Missouri. He's from the St. Louis area. But the western part of Missouri, I can't remember Carolina really even recruiting out there. Now, Clemson has under Brent Venables, because of his connections there when he was at Oklahoma. But South Carolina really hasn't. So that would be a huge get in a number of ways. Not only is it, for my money, the biggest position of need in the class, he's an elite talent. And like you said, from far away. And it's really a big target for Sterling Lucas, who was, in the NFL the last 4 or 5 years, who's not really been on the road recruiting at the college level. And sometimes those end up being your best guys. You think back to the last cycle and the work Bobby Bentley did in recruiting. I mean, he was kind of an analyst, came from Auburn, and I think by and large he was the best recruiter, assistant coach-wise, on Muschamp's staff. And so, sometimes that's those guys that are hungry, that come in, that take the bull by the horns opportunity-wise, that go out and get it done on the recruiting trail. And certainly, if Sterling Lucas can land Bradley or some of these other guys he's in on, that would be a big start for the Gamecocks' young defensive ends coach.
I don't think I've heard you mention his name real quick. Craig brings it up on our live stream. I think it's Montique Rames. Is it Montique? Am I saying that right?
It's Montague.
Montague. Okay.
Montague.
Everybody knows.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I called him Montique for the first 7 months he was a recruit. I don't feel bad about that.
Oh no, the pronunciation is we know. Thankfully, your name easy to pronounce. Patrick semi-easy. Jen, I just realized the Jen Jensen after we were making fun of Willie Williams.
I didn't even want to attempt to pronounce the name of the offensive lineman from DeMatha that was here a couple weeks ago. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I don't try that one.
Oh.
I just say the offensive lineman from the Masters. I don't attempt that one.
Yeah.
Ola something. But no, it's he who are we talking about?
Rames.
So he's a Sumter kid, and the Gamecocks usually, they've done quite well at Sumter. When they've lost a Sumter kid over the years, it's been really because they haven't pursued them or offered them or dropped them. Like, Zion Nelson, who's starting at Miami, he was 230 pounds coming out of high school. Miami got desperate and needed an offensive lineman and just panned out for whatever reason. Here's why you recruit the state of South Carolina, example A. But Gamecocks have done pretty well at Sumter, and they seem to be at a space now where they're putting players out every year. Raines was a kid early on when they started offered him and recruited him. The program wasn't winning a whole lot. He's one where that matters. He was kind of skeptical, about the winning and all that. Of course, Carolina turns around and goes 7-6 last year, and they've just built all this momentum with him to where Hale McGranahan and I put in a crystal ball prediction for South Carolina. He reminds me a little bit, guys, of Clifton Gathers, that bigger, longer defensive end that can probably get up to about 275 or something like that, maybe even more. Not necessarily like a Devin Taylor type where you've got to add weight to his frame. Not as tall as Clifton was. I think Montague is 6'6", 6'5.5", but certainly a worthy prospect and a guy that the staff wants awfully bad, 4-star guy out of Sumter. And you don't want to start losing guys out of Sumter that you want if you're South Carolina. So that was a big piece of news, sort of lost in the, oh my God, Shadavian Bradley's visiting again kind of talk. I mean, Raines is a guy that you add him into that edge mix from in-state. And, I don't know, he could end up being just as good or better than the others. I mean, that's just kind of the way this state works in terms of players. But I think they're awfully excited about the prospects with him.
JC, just get off track from South Carolina real quick. Obviously, the big recruiting news was Arch Manning yesterday. Bill and I have talked a little about how that might affect the quarterback recruiting class as a whole. But just generally, your thoughts. Is he overrated? Does this move the needle in a big way for Texas? Is this a lot of hype, or just because he's a Manning, or is this legit?
Well, look, I mean, if you watch Arch play, and he's much more like style of play wise, he's much more like his grandfather than his uncles. He's more athletic, can kind of run around, can do things with his wheels, but also has a very precise arm. If you just watched him throw, like let's say he goes to Texas first day of practice, you're watching him throw and Quinn Ewers throw, you're probably going to say, well, Ewers is better. Just because Ewers is the type of guy that will wow you with his arm and his angles he can throw it with, kind of like a Patrick Mahomes type of guy. Whereas Arch is, it's about that microprocessor between his ears. And if you think about football and sort of Sark's offense and what they're doing at Alabama and what some of the schools in Ohio State, places like that, even at South Carolina with the complexity of that offense, you need a guy that can make quick decisions. I mean, they run a lot of RPOs, and that's on the quarterback to make that read. And so I think that the value with him and why he's ranked high is the Manning brain. And I don't think you bet against the Manning brain. We've seen it over the years a lot. So, as far as him being number one, it's probably, one of those situations where you look at it and go, well, he could be, like uncles or better, or he could be Jimmy Clausen. It's kind of that range for him. And Jimmy Clausen was a really good college quarterback that had a cup of coffee in the NFL as a backup. But I wouldn't say that he lived up to his hype. And for Arch Manning, that's going to be a key. But Texas is getting a good one. They're transitioning into the SEC in a couple of years. They're going to need all the help they can get. And certainly having Ewers there and then Arch Manning coming in, I think that's a big start at the most important position on the field for the Longhorns.
He's J.C. Shurburtt. We're going to keep you around for one more segment because the next question we want to follow up with you is on his commitment to Texas, what that does with the Alabama quarterback room and how that impacts South Carolina. So if you're good, you can hang with us. We got you for about another 10 minutes. Is that good?
I'm good.
He's good. He's going to hang around. He is J.C. Shurburtt. He's going to hang around for one more segment, and we'll get a few more questions to him. You're listening to Bill Gunner, Patrick Perrette, Jen Jensen, and J.C. Shurburtt. It's the early game on 107.5 The Game.
On the next halftime show.
Hey guys, Jay and Terry coming up on the Friday halftime show. We'll continue celebrating the anniversary of Title IX with a couple of great guests, including Bev Smith, the softball coach at Carolina. Our buddy Colin Taylor is going to join us with the latest on Gamecock baseball transfers. 3 Clemson Tigers become Carolina Gamecocks. Is this great or a conspiracy?
Is Clemson doing this on purpose?
Colin will have more.
Are they sending spies?
Plus, he'll be covering the Board of Trustees
those are
meeting.
spies, Jay.
So we'll have that for you, too. And a Top 5 Friday. So a lot to do on a Friday afternoon.
Frisk those guys for listening devices.
No, that's not what it is, right?
No, we're just joking around and having fun.
As far as you know.
The halftime show with Jay, Terry, and Tommy.
Noon to 3.
On your home of the Gamecocks.
107.5 The Game.
ZR Water Technology. If you're not familiar with it, you need to become familiar with it because it keeps your home clean. It cleans your surfaces without the use of detergents or harsh chemicals, which means your carpets stay cleaner longer. Now the question is, where do you get this ZR Water Technology? Well, you get it from Zero Res. That's right. You can call Zero Res today, 803-262-4020. Give them my name, Bill Gunner at 107.5 The Game, and you'll get 15% off all cleaning services. That's right. Rugs, upholstery, air ducts, carpets, whatever it may be, 15% off. So call Zero Res today, 803-262-4020, or you can book with these, ZeroResColumbia.com. You can use the promo code SUMMER SALE, and again, it's 15% off, whether it's area rugs, carpet, upholstery, tile, air ducts, whatever it may be that you need cleaned at your house, Zero Res has got you taken care of. And again, it's all because of that patented ZR Water Technology. No soap, no residue, no harsh chemicals. The pets will thank you. The kids falling around on the carpet will thank you. Everybody will be happy, in the home will look beautiful. 803-262-4020, or you can schedule with ease online, ZeroResColumbia.com. Zero Res, spell it backwards or forwards. It's the right way to clean.
107.5 The Game traffic from the Shepherd's Glass Traffic Center.
Shepherd's Glass, a true reflection of quality. ShepherdsGlass.com.
And we have a report of an accident to Edmond Highway at Trade Zone Drive. Also, Highway 378 at Charter Oak Road. There is an accident there that is definitely slowing things down in that area. And your forecast for today, warm and muggy, 93 will be our high. And then the humidity backs off a little bit for the weekend, which is good. 94 on Saturday and Sunday. Right now, though, it's warming up. It's 75 at 107.5 The Game.
This is Boomer Science with the CBS Sports Minute. Colorado leading 3-1 over Tampa Bay could win its first Stanley Cup since 2001 tonight. Winning the Cup takes talent and skill for sure, along with just a wee bit of luck. The Avalanche caught a break on Nazem Kadri's overtime winner Wednesday night. They apparently had too many men on the ice. But you know what? That's hockey. I'm Boomer Science.
CBS Sports Radio.
Welcome to Allstate, where you can really control your savings. Because when you drive less, you save more with pay per mile. So you're really in control of your savings, only paying for the miles you drive. Yeah, life is good when you're in the driver's seat. Allstate. Here, better protection costs a whole lot less. You're in good hands with Allstate. Click, call, or visit allstate.com to save today.
Not available in every state. Savings vary, subject to terms, conditions, and availability. Allstate Fire and Casualty Insurance Company, Norfolk, Illinois.
Make your garden twice as big this summer and get twice the harvest. Right now, get 2 Bonnie Plants 2.32 quart vegetable and herb plants for only $10. Their ready-to-grow starter plants make growing vegetables and herbs at home easier than ever before. Make your garden twice as big this summer and enjoy homegrown fresh vegetables and herbs with Bonnie plants, 2 for just $10. Feels like 4th of July savings at the Home Depot. How doers get more done. Selection varies by store, in-store only, not available offshore or Alaska.
Sponsored by Allstate. Are you a safe driver? Are you looking to save money? With DriveWise from Allstate, the safer you drive, the more you can save. At Allstate, better protection costs a whole lot less. Visit allstate.com or call an agent for a quote today.
If you have tax problems and want to end the frustration of dealing with the IRS, grab a pen and take down this number. Hi, I'm local attorney John Ecton with the Ecton Law Firm, located right here in the Midlands. Let us show you what it takes to solve your tax problems once and for all. The first step, which can be one of the hardest, is to take action. Do something. Call me, set an appointment, and meet with me in person. Your first visit is completely free and confidential, and I'll show you how to take control of the problem. So if you haven't filed your tax returns for years or are facing IRS wage levies, bank levies, or tax liens, call me, John Ecton, at 803-771-9800. That's 803-771-9800. Or go to EctonLawFirm.com. That's ECTON lawfirm.com. Learn what it takes to solve your tax problems for good. Take that first step to a better future. Call me, John Ecton.
Summer is here. While you get ready for that summer vacation, why not show your home a little TLC too? Get annoying repairs like lifting a sunken sidewalk or waterproofing a human basement out of the way so you can return to a stable home. At Mount Valley Foundation Services, we offer permanent solutions to your foundation problems. Our crew will evaluate your property for free. Careful to look everywhere an issue may be found. Trust us for foundation repairs. Just visit fixmyfoundation.com to set up your no obligation inspection today.
Mount Valley Foundation Services, rock solid foundation.
Broadcasting live from the Herndon Chevrolet Studios. This is 1075 The Game. Stop by or shop online today and see why Herndon Chevrolet makes you smile. The early game
With Bill Gunter, Patrick Perret, and Jen Jensen.
on your home of the Gamecocks.
1075 The Game.
$8:22 on a Friday morning. We've had a donut, we've got coffee, we've got JC Sherbert hanging out with us on the Love Chevy phone lines, talking a little bit of recruiting, and Craig weighing in on our live stream. He says, congrats to JC for his engagement. Yeah, congratulations. Big, what was it, last weekend, 2 weekends ago?
I think it'd be 2 weeks on set. 2 weeks tomorrow. So, yeah, big news for me personally, and certainly a lucky man. And you got a heads up on it, Gunner. So you're in the circle of trust. But it's time, you know, and I couldn't be more excited about that.
You need to rethink about your circle there, JC. I'm just saying.
Yeah, that's what people tell me.
Congratulations from all of us here. Certainly exciting times for you. Let's ask you about the quarterback situation there. Arch Manning, we were kind of leading in with that, commits to Texas. Well, now Alabama, who's already got Eli Holstein committed, is in search of another quarterback, and South Carolina and Alabama competing for Dylan Longerin out of Brookwood, Georgia. What does this spot now potentially opening for Alabama, and also JC, Georgia had seemed to go all in on Arch Manning. I don't know what they've got a backup quarterback plan or not as well. So how does this maybe affect South Carolina a little bit with their current quarterback search?
Well, you know, you never want to underestimate Georgia with a Georgia player, but they haven't really been in the top five or anything, throughout this process. Alabama's been a different story because I think they've been straight up. Hey, we're going to take two. Look at the player, look at our roster. We need two. You can come in here and compete or whatever. And so that's a factor with Dylan. Now, would it have been like had they not gotten Eli Holstein and then Manning? If they'd have gone all in on Manning and then Lonergan's number two, then I think that's setting off a little bit more sirens in Columbia than maybe this situation, because Eli's a really good quarterback. That's a stiff competition. Sometimes quarterbacks are adverse to going into a class with another talented quarterback because even though there is a transfer portal, it's kind of a pain. You get to a school, you go there a year, you make friends, you get settled in, and then you're sitting on the bench. Time to hit the portal. You'd rather not. You'd rather avoid that. So we'll wait. We'll see. I don't know that it, moves the needle as much as maybe, like I said, had they not gotten Eli earlier in the class. Now, could he go to Alabama? Absolutely. And South Carolina's got a backup plan for that. But if not, Gamecocks will probably be the pick. I can't see him going all the way to Stanford. I think baseball is a big factor with him in terms of getting the opportunity to play both. I think that Carolina has done, as good a job as anybody recruiting him and been at the forefront of his recruitment for quite some time. So it would be disappointing if you're a South Carolina fan or coach or whoever if he went elsewhere, but you can't rule that out right now. The lure of Alabama is very, very strong. And, you look at sort of their offense and what they do, and it's attractive for any quarterback, But now that said, we talk about the South Carolina offense not looking as good last year, but that hadn't slowed down recruiting. I mean, they've done as well as anybody since December at attracting top end quarterbacks. And even if they don't get Dylan, I still think the future's awfully bright at that position when you kind of look at, who is set to come, who has come already, that kind of thing.
Well, we were talking about maybe pretty much every school, or maybe the plan is just bring 2 quarterbacks into every class. Do you think that's going to be sort of the game plan every year? Because, I mean, South Carolina, you can look and you can say, well, we've got the X amount of quarterbacks that are going into their freshman year or sophomore year, so they're expected to be on the roster. But you can blink, and then you'll have 3 guys transfer, and your quarterback room's looking bare. So, I mean, do you think Texas takes another quarterback in a class like this with Arch, or is that just going to kind of be the way it is going forward, 2 quarterbacks in every class?
Yeah, I don't know. Most programs I think are going to be in a situation where they just take one. Because you can always go hit the portal if you run into a situation. Now, South Carolina, what's impressive to me about it, it's like after what they went through last year with sort of the revolving door at quarterback, it seems like they've made a commitment to say this will never happen again. And I think the strategy there, if you're the Gamecocks, rightfully so, is sign as many good quarterbacks as you can, bring as many into the program that can compete as you can, and then the competition will sort things out, and the cream will rise to the top, and inevitably you'll lose some of these guys. But that's the nature of the beast these days. I don't think you can sit around anymore, to your point about taking multiple quarterbacks and say, and worry about people transferring. Well, you're our guy. We don't want to bring anybody else in because, we don't want you to transfer. I think that you can't worry about that anymore because, like you said, in the blink of an eye, you can be gutted at that spot pretty quickly. And we've seen it at other programs around the SEC. And so I think that, and good ones, good programs too, that have been recruiting at a high level for a while. Do I think the Gamecocks, if they get Lonergan, will bring in 2 this class? I guess it's possible. Dante Reno could still reclassify. I don't think it's likely if they get Dylan. But if not, you got Reno, and then they got Jalen Bradford in the 2024 class, and maybe one other one. They brought in 2 this past cycle. So I think when I look at it compared to other schools, South Carolina's approach is a little bit different. But I think there's a reason for that. Shane Beamer talked about it last year. We don't have enough quarterbacks, here to do practice or whatever. And he's kind of used to a lot of quarterbacks on the roster. And I think that's a smart move because it kind of insulates you from a disastrous situation at the most important position on the field.
Real quick before we let you go, I've kind of followed Florida's recruiting, and it's been a rough week for them. Travion Webb being crystal to Penn State. That was a guy they thought they had. I think is it Jalen Rashada? I don't have it in front of me. The quarterback there now being crystal to Miami. does there seem to be a little bit of urgency down there with Billy Napier because he's stepping into this a job where there's quick expectations for him to get it going?
Obviously, I mean, look at how quick they fired coaches.
Yeah,
I mean, you don't coach the Gators and plan on longevity, but Billy Napier is the type of guy, he's going to do things his way, and get some, lose some, win some, lose some, whatever. I think it's more important as far as his mind goes to get it right. And the word you keep hearing down there is infrastructure and foundation. And when you go through that many coaching changes in that amount of time, you need that, but you also need patience from your boosters and fan base. I'll be honest, the Webb thing did surprise me quite a bit. I thought that, just knowing what I know about his commitment, of course, he's visiting South Carolina this weekend. I would not rule Florida out, though. I would not rule South Carolina out. I would not rule anybody out with that kid. I do think Penn State is on somewhat of a roll now. They got a 4-star edge rusher out of Alabama the other day. You heard James Franklin talk about NIL the other day, and I think that was kind of a call to arms with some of the Penn State people, and kind of you start to see the results. So we'll see ultimately what happens with Webb and all that, and with Florida's recruiting class. I think Billy and his staff know what they're doing. Even if the class isn't ranked in the top 10, I expect it to still be pretty good as they try to kind of lay that foundation, because that's kind of the word that I get from down there. We had Thomas Goldcamp on the JC Morgan podcast talking about it a couple of weeks ago, that it's more now about, okay, we've got to get a builder in here. We've got to get somebody to do it, because we can't keep changing coaches and we can't keep this instability with this program. And so there you go, and it'll be interesting with Florida State has a staff that's been there 3 years now, Miami and Mario Cristobal and their NIL deals. I don't know, Florida's got some stiff competition there within the state and also elsewhere, but I do think they'll be fine long term, as long as they kind of stick to the plan and get it going.
Appreciate you joining us this morning. Hope you have a fantastic weekend, and definitely look forward to catching up with you soon. And I doubt we'll catch up with you before the 4th of July. So enjoy that as well up there. Maybe enjoy a good, you get to a Cubs game and enjoy a hot dog there. Pull for Jen's Cubs.
Woohoo.
Hey, I'm going to have a hot dog and a tall, cool Budweiser. Hey.
Well done, Harry.
All right, guys.
Not bad, buddy. Appreciate you joining us this morning. Have a great weekend.
Have a good one.
Take care. JC Sherbert of thebigspur.com. Make sure you stay in tune with thebigspur.com all weekend for South Carolina's recruiting weekend. We'll come back. We will final thoughts on that and move on to a few other things. You're listening to the early game on 107.5 The Game.
To celebrate Carolina's 30th anniversary in the SEC, it's 107.5 The Game's
30 for 30.
The 30 best Gamecocks football players over the last 30 years.
Number 17.
Hey, what's up? AJ Cann, offensive guard, University of South Carolina.
AJ Cann are the ideal guys that I want in front of me.
AJ Cann went to Bamberg Earhart High School in Bamberg, South Carolina, where he played football and competed in track. Cann was redshirted as a freshman in 2010 and took over at guard in 2011.
A lot of guys look at me and see that AJ is going to work hard. He's going to give it everything he's got.
Overall, Cann was a 4-year starter, starting 51 games, second most in school history. As a senior in 2014, Cann started all 13 games and was named an All-American. Cann was drafted by the Jacksonville Jaguars in the 3rd round of the 2015 NFL Draft.
I look at my phone, Florida area code, and I pick it up with Jacksonville, and I couldn't even lift my head up. I don't know what to say.
Number 17.
AJ Cann, offensive guard, University of South Carolina.
It's 107.5 The Game's 30 for 30.
The top 30 Gamecocks football players from Carolina's 30 years in the SEC. Keep listening as we count them down from 30 to 1.
On your home of the Gamecocks, 107.5
The Game.
107.5 The Game traffic from the Shepherd's Glass Traffic Center.
Shepherd's Glass, a true reflection of quality. ShepherdsGlass.com.
Just had that one accident, Highway 378 at Charter Oak Road, to keep an eye out for this morning. And it's going to be humid today, kind of muggy out there, 93 for the high, but humidity backs off for the weekend, 94 both Saturday and Sunday. 75 right now at 107.5 The Game.
When work flies out of control, Harrelson's Zone keeps me cool as a cucumber.
When the kids turn unholy, Harrelson's Own keeps my patience divine.
Life can be chaotic, but Harrelson's Own CBD helps keep you calm through any storm. Harrelson's Own consistently delivers you full mind and body homeostasis. It's an organic, full-spectrum CBD in a refreshing oral spray. Our nano-emulsified technology makes it completely water-soluble, so your body absorbs it immediately. You'll start to feel it in seconds, not 60 minutes. It just makes everything feel better. Give Harrelson's Own a try, from our family to yours.
Give your life a boost.
It's just the best you've ever felt in your natural state.
It just feels sensational. Go to sensational.com to order now. Sensational.com.
In today's digitally driven world, the internet has become more than just a convenience or a luxury. Among other things, it keeps family members connected with loved ones, workers connected with their jobs, and students connected with their instructors and lessons. That's why the U.S. government created the Affordable Connectivity Program, also known as the ACP. This program provides eligible low-income families with discounts of up to $30 a month to help pay for their internet service. And here at FTC, we're proud to participate in this important program. FTC urges all eligible households to take advantage of this helpful program. To learn more about the ACP and to see if you qualify, visit acpbenefit.org. Potential applicants can also get more information by calling the ACP helpline at 877-384-2575. That's acpbenefit.org or call 877-384-2575.
It's the Love Chevrolet Countdown to Gamecock Football.
71 days till kickoff.
Your trusted family-owned dealership since 1961. Get the vehicle you want, not the one you have to settle for. Love Chevy. I-26 at Harbison and at lovechevy.com. Find new roads.
Hey, Scott here for Traditions Fine Jewelers. One of the things I love about the jewelry business is that each item we sell will have a story, a moment, or some type of history with it in the future. For us, it's not just about selling jewelry. Because jewelry is lasting, Traditions Fine Jewelers also takes great pride in helping you keep your jewelry looking its best. This is why we have an on-site jeweler who's been in the business over 25 years. At Traditions Fine Jewelers, we've saved many heartbreaks and costly repairs with our jewelry cleaning service. It's quick and easy, and best of all, it's free. Unfortunately, accidents do happen. In those cases, our staff will take care in inspecting, analyzing, and professionally helping you get your jewelry repaired and looking as new as possible. At Traditions Fine Jewelers, we'll retip, resize, or solder your jewelry and have it back to you fast, too. We offer one of the quickest turnarounds in Columbia. So bring your jewelry in and let us help you keep it looking its very best whenever you want to wear it. Traditions Fine Jewelers, 5134 Sunset Boulevard, or a new location at Sandhills by the Fountain. Traditions Fine Jewelers, where the Midlands get engaged.
Camden Military Academy. It's probably not what you think. At Camden Military Academy, cadets achieve their untapped potential in academics and life. Hear now one cadet's message to his mother.
I'm very glad that you sent me here. I've learned a lot from this place. I know you work very hard to send me here. I think of you every day. Honestly, I'm just very glad that you sent me here. Thank you.
To learn more, visit CamdenMilitary.com.
Our homes, we protect them from intruders with security systems. But there's another kind of intruder most people aren't aware of until it's too late. Home title thieves. When a criminal transfers your home title to a fake identity and steals your title, no one will notify you. Not the police, not even your bank. Sadly, people find out when it's too late, when their home is sold out from under them, or the eviction notice comes. That's when the legal nightmare begins. You need Home Title Lock, America's leader in home title protection. For just pennies a day, Home Title Lock puts a virtual barrier of protection around your home's title with 24/7 monitoring. Cyber technology has made it easy for criminals to steal your home. Home Title Lock alerts you if your home becomes their target. Make sure you're not already a victim. Go to HomeTitleLock.com and for a limited time, get your free title scan and complete title report. $100 value, free with sign up. Again, that's HomeTitleLock.com. HomeTitleLock.com.
What we're talking about on 107.5 The Game.
Sponsored by Love Chevrolet.
8:40 on your Friday morning, June the 24th. Bill Gunner, Patrick Perrett, Jen Jensen, as we wrap up about the final 16 minutes here of the program. Big thank you to J.C. Sherbert for joining us there in those two segments to cover a lot of recruiting. And it's evolving, Patrick. I grew up, I've always been a recruiting nerd. Loved it when I was in college, followed it. Remember the big hullabaloo back in the early 2000s of junior colleges, whatever was going on with South Carolina and Clemson. I think it was like Jabari Levy and Randy Jackson and it was all kinds of wild stuff. I can't remember. Maybe it wasn't Levy. Levy was out of Berkeley, I believe. And maybe there was another big offensive lineman that didn't pan out at South Carolina. But I've always gotten into it. But recruiting has evolved. And it's with the advent of the transfer portal, it's really, really evolved. And I'm kind of I think we've brought it up, and I'm kind of with JC on this. Your offense and defensive line really have to be built, through recruiting. And then your receivers and your running backs. I mean, we've seen it. Kenneth Walker going to Michigan State and being an elite player and a program changer for them this past year. South Carolina gets the Wake Forest transfer. Christian Bill Smith.
Zach Walker was a Wake Forest.
That's why I used that one. But yeah, Zachary Evans is transferring to Ole Miss. Jackson Dart, Michael Trigg, the tight end position there for Ole Miss. But you're right. You've been able to see that as the skill positions. But the offensive line, you still, I think, have to build through the recruiting option, which is kind of wild because who knows? You could have South Carolina could Landon Sampson. Let's just use him for a second here. Could come in and let's just say he beats everybody out. He's on campus and he just looks incredible, beats everybody out. And then somebody back in Texas calls up South Lake Carroll and it's like, hey, I don't know if Landon would like to come back and play with Arch Manning, Quinn Ewers. Got a nice NIL deal. Saw what he did at South Carolina. Maybe he'd like to come back. Maybe you should get the message to him, transfer and be part of a new receiving corps with those guys. Like that is where college football is, and you could take advantage of that through the transfer portal.
Yeah, and
whereas I'll just say this, I feel like I highly doubt that somebody's calling me being, man, that left tackle that South Carolina lit the world on fire. Think he'd want to transfer back to Like it just doesn't feel like that's going to be the way it goes with the transfer portal.
Maybe it would happen with just the absolute star offensive lineman, or like you go in if Alabama plays Vanderbilt, and their left tackle just happens to shut down Will Anderson. And Nick Saban says, wow, I haven't seen anybody shut down Will Anderson. Hey, who's that left tackle? Because ours is about to graduate and we need him next year. Like, I could see that happening, but it has to be, maybe that's just the thing about offensive line. It was mentioned during AJ Cann. It's just, you have to be so beyond spectacular to be noticed. And really, it's only certain things like pancake blocks, driving guys 50 yards downfield, the Michael Orr from The Blind Side, just throwing a guy out of the gym, or when everybody tunes in to watch a passer rusher like a Will Anderson, and if he gets shut down, then you're going to say, "Oh my, I wonder who was blocking him," and that's another way to stand out.
It's just we'll continue to watch, but it's recruiting has changed so much because there used to be certain players that you said, well, bring them in, and you're taking them because of long-term potential, not immediate impact, Patrick. And
right.
And it was like, okay, we're going to take this guy, but we know that he's not going to be ready until year 3. He's going to redshirt, and he's going to have a redshirt freshman year, and then maybe his redshirt sophomore year, his 3rd year. All right, maybe we start again. It feels like every kid you bring in now has to be ready to compete from day one. I guess there are certain programs that can still go out and get guys that are willing to take 2 or 3 years to develop. South Carolina there's 2 guys that I feel like in the past would still be on the roster. Colby Fields, who left South Carolina, transferred to LSU, and now Ladarian Craig, yesterday entering the transfer portal, 6'2", 175-pound defensive back, both who transfer out. Both were part of Shane Beamer's first freshman class, and both are now gone. And you kind of wonder what they would have done. Would they have been willing to stick it out if it wasn't a free transfer right now?
Yeah, and that's Alabama's one of the few schools that's convinced guys that it's cool, that it's okay to sit and wait your turn. And certain position groups, because that's certainly happening at Ohio State right now. They just landed 2 5-stars and another high 4-star receiver. They just had Chris Olave and Garrett Wilson drafted in the first round. Marvin Harrison Jr. could probably have started anywhere else in the country, but he decided to sit and wait his turn. Some teams are just able to convince guys to do that, and maybe it just takes a truly special position coach or just being a national championship team. But schools like South Carolina, they're always gonna have a hard time doing that in this new era.
803-404-6100. You're listening to Bill Gunner, Patrick Pratt, and Jen Jensen. It's the early game on 107.5 The Game.
Here's what's coming up
on the next Extra Point.
Hey guys, Pearson Fowler here from the Extra Point, and coming up on the Friday edition of the Extra Point, South Carolina kicks off another huge weekend of recruiting. Many as a dozen official visitors expected on campus for South Carolina. We'll talk to Wes Mitchell coming up at 11:30, get his thoughts on all the visitors, guys that might be ready to commit at the end of the weekend, and just kind of where South Carolina stands with a lot of the recruits that will be on campus. We'll recap the NBA draft and have a lot more to do. It'll be a fun Friday show as we've done here throughout the summer, so you don't want to miss it. Tune into the Extra Point, 9 o'clock.
The Extra Point
With Pearson, Preston, and Gamecock Central.
9 a.m. to noon
On your home of the Gamecocks.
107.5 the Game.
Coming up on the weekend, and maybe you want to do some entertaining this weekend. If that is the case, you need to make sure your home is in peak condition. Obviously, it was a huge storm last night. We talked about that earlier this morning. And if that is the case, you might have some crawl space issues, and you want to call Canty Foundation Specialists. They are the foundation and crawl space repair experts. So if you have an open crawl space and recently experienced a storm like last night, there could be standing water under your home, and that could create high humidity and condensation and an environment for mold and mildew and pests like termites. They could all be under your home right now. That also, moisture could lead to wood rot and floor joist problems, could create musty smells and odors that can lead to health issues like runny nose, itchy eyes, coughs. 50% of the air you breathe in your home comes from your crawl space. So you need to make sure it's taken care of, particularly after nights like last night. 803-424-8380 is the number for Canty Foundation Specialists. They are also experts in foundation repair. So if you have cracks anywhere in your home, like your exterior, above your garage door, in your windows or door frames, if your doors or windows are sticking, or if you have uneven or bouncy floors, those are all signs of foundation issues. And again, you need to call 803-424-8380 and see what Canty can do for you. You can find them in Columbia, Greenville, Augusta, Charlotte, or Charleston. And they can also work on concrete repair, concrete leveling, basement waterproofing, or commercial services for you. Again, 803-424-8380 is the number for Canty Foundation Specialist, or check them out on the web at cantycanfixit.com.
107.5 The Game traffic from the Shepherd's Glass Traffic Center.
Shepherd's Glass, a true reflection of quality. shepherdsglass.com.
And it looks like you're still working that earlier accident, Highway 378 at Charter Oak Road.
I was wondering if we were going to hear from Casey this morning. Our resident Longhorn fan.
Yeah, little discussion there about Texas.
I was thinking when you were talking about Traylon Webb committing to 2 schools already, what would be the odds if you were a handicapper of Arch Manning decommitting from Texas at any point? How much would you bet that he will not decommit from Texas?
I'd go 500.
Yeah, I think I would too.
I'd be willing to put 500.
There's just no shot that he's going to.
But I mean, to give you an example, I was right last night, and this was pre-beverages. I was honestly close to putting 500 on Jabari Smith being the first pick.
Yeah.
That would have sucked.
But he's done all of his due diligence. He doesn't want to go to Peyton's school. He doesn't want to go to Eli and Archie's school.
I don't know.
He's got to be very sure about Texas.
They just believe in Sarkisian.
Yeah.
I don't know, Craig.
Well,
hadn't decided on the boat.
Or just Texas is awesome. Because it is.
I think he just sees a chance to go somewhere and be. I mean, it's crazy as
Be
it
different,
sounds to be the man. Like,
Well-
totally different.
Well, there's also a chance he loves Texas because Austin is awesome. The campus is awesome. I don't know how you wouldn't love. I wouldn't love visiting that school.
Did you go walk around the campus? Like, did you?
Oh yeah. Yeah, this is what I was gonna. Yesterday we talked about who's closest to being back.
Southern
Does
Cal.
this doesn't change anything
I
for
think
you?
Southern Cal. I feel like JC tap danced around the how good is Arch Manning question.
Kind of, but it sounds like he thinks he's good.
I think he's good. I think Chris Sims, Jimmy Clausen were good quarterbacks. There was nothing wrong with them, but were they as hype as?
Well, also to JC's point, I think he was kind of assuming that because he's a Manning, he's really smart.
Yeah.
But their high school is so much better than every school they play.
Yeah.
He throws screen passes that go for 70 yards, and it's. I watched a video that says Arch Manning has 5 touchdown passes in the first half, and I could have thrown all 5 of those touchdown passes. Quinn Ewers, though, there's the videos of him throwing the ball in practice are crazy. The way he throws it's insane. That video you retweeted, Dante Reno, is pretty impressive, though. He can rip it.
Yeah, they're going to get him.
He can rip it.
Yeah, just shotgun recruiting. The NBA draft last night, Heath Klein, and in the only way Heath Klein can sum it up, Patrick, and I can't pronounce the young man's name. I can barely say easy American names, but the New York Knicks, with the 12th pick in the draft last night, selected a player from France.
Ousmane Dieng?
Sure. Good enough. Heath Klein last night tweeted out, and then they promptly traded him, by the way. They traded him. And Heath Klein put out a tweet, and I like this tweet, and I'm going to read it. And it says, being from France, thinking you're going to New York City, and then finding out 5 minutes later you're actually heading to Oklahoma City is quite a transition. That would be Oklahoma City. I've heard good things about. Like, it's just not in the middle of nowhere, but it is quite the change if you're coming from France, thinking you get to go hang out in New York City and play basketball, only to find out you're going to OKC. That's a little bit of a change.
Worse? Isn't it better for a French person to see that rather than an American, though? Because French person is just like, okay, America. I'm going to America. That's why I think Giannis is going to stay in Milwaukee forever, because he's like, I came from Greece. Oh, I'm in America. I'm playing in the NBA. Milwaukee's pretty cool. But if a kid grew up in New York City and played for the Bucks, they'd be like, all right, as soon as my contract's up, I'm leaving. I'm guaranteed to leave.
Possibly.
All the American guys are the ones that say, yeah, I want to get traded to Miami or LA or New York or Chicago or one of the major cities. That's why those teams are always an off season away from completely revamping into a super team. Because Americans are spoiled.
It's true. Tis true. I was reading that tweet. NBA draft last night. Again, we did, despite saying we weren't going to do it, a winners and losers of the draft. But Paolo Banchero picked number 1 in the draft, Chet Holmgren number 2, Jabari Smith 3, Keegan Murray 4, and Jaden Ivey 5. Your guy, whose name I've already forgotten how to pronounce, Benedict.
Oh, Mathurin.
Yeah. Thank you. Goes to the other Pacers at number 6. Final thoughts on this. Who of the 3, the big 3 there, or are you going to throw somebody else in there? Paolo, Chet, and Jabari. Who ends up with the best professional career?
I don't know. I can see Jabari Smith and Jalen Green being a really good duo for the Rockets for the next decade. So maybe I'll say Jabari Smith, but I do for sure think that Paolo's going to have the best rookie year and look like the best of the bunch this year. I think he's just the most NBA ready. I think everything he does translates to the NBA game. there's a role for him, whether he's going to be an elite 3-point shooter or not, probably not, but he can handle the ball. He can play physical. He's big. He's skilled. I just think he's going to have a really good rookie year. He's going to average almost, if not 20 points a game, and he'll be the rookie of the year.
Okay. All right. So that was Jabari?
No, that's Jabari will be the best long term.
Oh, you said
Paolo's
3-point
gonna
shooter. See, I'm not sold on Paolo shooting the three.
No, I said his game translates to the NBA level. Won't be an elite 3-point shooter,
okay,
but
I'm with
everything
you.
else he can still stretch you out a little bit. He can dribble. He can beat you off the dribble. He can do a lot of different things. So I just think he'll be a good player, but Jabari Smith, because he can shoot the 3 ball, will be better long term.
Okay, I'm with you. There we go. Okay, all right, that's how I understood. Well, the NBA draft is over. The NHL's Stanley Cup tonight continues on. Game 5, Colorado, big favorite, minus 180 on the money line there.
Are you pulling for them to just end it?
Yeah, because it's gonna have. I don't know if they go back to Tampa. Maybe if Tampa can win tonight and they go back to Tampa, maybe Tampa can use the home ice crowd and get it to Game 7. But I'm with you. I think Colorado pulls it out in the end. So I feel like you're just delaying the inevitable. But as Patrick has said, and Jen didn't like it, there is NASCAR still to be had. But Patrick said as soon as the Stanley Cup ends, we're done with sports for the summer.
I'm done with Patrick if he thinks that.
Let you two hash it out over a donut as we head into the weekend.
Did Wimbledon already happen?
No, June 27th. We got Wimbledon. We got Wimbledon, everybody,
There you
starting
go.
next week.
With
Y'all have a great weekend.
Yep. Have a great weekend, everyone.
Have a good weekend, everybody.
Later.
Later, Tater.